you'll notice when he started to bring up the Bible, though, like randomly, the conversation wasn't about the Bible at all, right? It was once his point got to such absurdity that it's like he had like it was actually within himself. He had to be like, wait, why do I cling on to this, right? Like as if it's still possible. And then it was like, oh, because the alternative is Bible God, right?
Can you imagine not being able to steel man how demons could logically exist? Could you imagine being limited? We should help that guy.
That's not what I
He
asked.
said,
What I
he
asked
said there was a place. He said, well, there could have been a time
what is the
that didn't
logical
have
evidence?
time or space or matter or energy. There could have been a time that at the beginning of the
No,
universe that didn't have
no,
matter, energy,
that's actually not what
time,
I
or
said.
space. I'm like, well,
I,
what would
Yeah,
it have been?
didn't you hear that happened yesterday? There was
Round
a guy
three.
who you were arguing with yesterday who said that. He was like, "Oh, if there was no space, no material, no time, no energy, no nothing, then it would cease to those things would cease to exist." It's so
I was
ridiculous.
like, so nothing. He's like, no, no, not nothing. You got super. I'm like, well, what would
so,
it be then? I don't
so
need to
sorry,
know what else
am
it
I
could
not
have been.
audible? Am I not
Like, okay, bro, but
audible?
like, dude, if we're being
We
honest,
can hear you,
if
Tony.
you if you believe in
Okay,
the
so
material, if you're a materialist,
why
you
am
believe
I
like it's
why
all
is it
matter, it's
when
all
I
Hold on,
energy.
hold
It's
on,
like,
hold on. Tony, do you not hear Witsit talking? You're talking
Yeah,
right
I'm
over him.
talking.
actually I was talking and then
oh,
Witsit
did I have
started
him
talking
muted?
over me. That's
Oh
what
yeah,
I
you
heard.
have him. Oh, Witsit has you muted. That makes sense actually. You guys
Oh,
went ham
sorry.
yesterday.
Okay, so again,
Oh,
I did not say that there was a time at which time doesn't exist.
okay,
It's
you're
not
right. You're
about
right.
you,
That
Sorry, sorry.
Tony.
that
It
is
Okay.
wasn't
nonsense.
him. It was he was
Hey,
talking about
Tony.
somebody else. He was talking about mac and cheese. All right, it's
I
not all
wasn't
about
talking
you,
about
brother.
you, man. I'm talking about the idea, dude, that
But
it's
Tony,
like
This
you
is
get
let
a
me
you get a
this is
free
Okay,
an
stop
reign.
honest
drinking
You get
tap
free
question, and
water.
people. There's a free. Wait,
I
let me
have
finish.
trouble. I have trouble.
Okay.
I know
There's a free
everybody's talking
reign.
at
There,
once.
people. There's a free reign. People will just appeal to like any unidentifiable possibility, as opposed to the idea of God. But it's actually hypocrite.
Um,
It's a double standard.
It's
no, it
arbitrary,
isn't.
ungrounded. I mean, you know what I mean? So
Let
like
Tony
when
say
you
his
point
piece,
out to
guys. Come
people
on,
that
let
things have to
Tony
be
say his
said,
piece
huh?
without interruption.
Okay. It
No,
is the
Tony.
extrapolation. It is your what is at issue here is your attempt to extrapolate from what we know, what we experience, and what we have observations of, and then say, here's this time and situation that we have no observations of. These conditions must apply. That is not logically well founded. Whereas you take the opposite view in observable reality. You claim that there is an unobservable magnetic field of some sort that is
What?
causing Coriolis style motion. That was your
Have you
claim.
never?
Hold on, Don.
You
Don.
So
All right,
hang on. I don't.
you're good. You're
You know.
good. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. So just to finish up, I'll be done very soon. So just wait for a second. You've got one standard about the center, the early stages of the universe where we don't have observational evidence, and you want to take laws that you do know and apply them then when you've got no logical justification for doing so. And then in the observable universe where we do have observable data, you want to ignore it and appeal to stuff that doesn't necessarily exist. It's completely inconsistent and logically invalid.
Yeah, I don't know,
All right.
man, but I would
Word.
just ignore this. This all happened
And,
yesterday. But yeah, for anybody who
Word.
was for anybody who was like listening, right? And one of the ironic things is that like logic isn't made of material, but it must exist prior to the material world because the material world is also logical. It exists for a reason. There's a purpose, there's a design behind all these things. So logic that's not made of material and doesn't change as the material does is immutable, invariant, and universal. It's obvious. It's so obvious. And for somebody to say, not this guy, but for just anybody to deny that there was a time where logic existed, that would mean that it did exist because it would could violate the law of non-contradiction. So there can't be a time where it didn't exist. It's unintelligible.
It's correct. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't even know you were in here. So yes, it what
Well, hold on.
what do you guys?
Well, let me jump in and say one thing. So we were talking a minute ago before Tony jumped in about sort of there is a bit of a growing tension on the server with the Bible discussion thing. We can just like shelve that though. A few people said their words. I appreciate JT what you mentioned as well, and I just want to say appreciate that. And so we can maybe pick that up later, or we can figure that out, kind of how to navigate that just so everything is as smooth as possible going forward. Because, I mean, I've been getting some DMs of people being like, ban the Bible. And it's like, well, that's not really the way to go, So some people are saying that, there's this tension, going on. So we can pick that up later, though. I mean, if you guys want to shift into something else, either way. But the last thing I was going to say, too, is, I mean, yesterday, like, with between Tony and Witsit, like that was awesome, but the interruptions were so challenging because we really want to hear what is being said. And when there's interruptions, and I realize the tension that if someone feels like they're straw man, they want to interrupt. If someone feels like someone said something wrong, they want to interrupt. And I felt that too. Like the only times I generally interrupt is when I feel like someone straw man me, because when somebody starts, like, they're going to go a long time and they start their whole thing with a straw man, it is very painful because you feel like they're going to they're going to announce to the whole room and they're going to do a long thing. And when they start with the straw man and then they go on and on, it is challenging to where you want to stop them and be like, no, I didn't say that, because otherwise it makes it look like you said that. But there's two options to navigate that. One is we could have a system where it's like you can, do like, like an objection system, like objection, and then there has to be a mod team to kind of let the objection happen. There's that option. Or if it's two people going back and forth, they can, like, there's a way to do it. Like, let's say Tony and Witzer are going to go back and forth right now. I could give Tony a temporary mod role. For example, this is one option. I could give him a temporary mod role. It's not designed for him to mod the whole room. It would just be that he can mute himself, unmute Witsit. And like like in chess where you hit the button when you're done and then the other dude goes and they hit the button. Well, it could be like that. So this could be given to anyone if there's a one-on-one where like Tony could go, say his whole thing, and then mute himself and unmute Witsit. Witsit goes, says his whole thing. When Witsit's done, he mutes himself, unmutes Tony, something like that, almost like you're hitting the button. Now, there's positives and negatives to that, like in chess where you do that. There's positives and negatives because there's going to be a delay when you're done speaking. But that's another way to do it where you just know you're going to be able to lay your whole thing out. Then the other person has to kind of take notes or remember so they can address all of the points that were said. But
yeah, can I take on that real fast? Okay.
Yeah, go.
So in my opinion, the actual optimal way is there's a difference and you say this all the time, and it's like, in my opinion, completely correct. There's a major difference in interjection and interruption, right? So it's like, for one, even in just like good faith, like we talking to people in here that I like consider super close friends, they misunderstood what I said. So they start to go to like formulate a response to me, and it's like very obvious at the beginning that they misunderstood what I said. It makes no sense for me to sit here and let them give their 2-3 minute response based upon something I didn't say, right? Also, that applies to a straw man as well. It's just like, not only do you have to sit here and listen to the whole thing, it's like literally a waste of time. And so, like, if you can't interject, but this is the part though, people abuse everything. It just all comes down to good faith. I don't know what system you could put in place other than people that were monitoring that. Because, for example, I actually tried to interject in a way that, like, I tactically time it in between their pauses or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually try to do that. Like with Tony, when I felt like he was blatantly strawmanning yesterday, I would like wait a second and then he would start to pause and then say his next thing, and I'd say strawman, or I would just say one word so that at least it could be noted, right? Because at that point it was just so off the rails. I mean, like, to me, that's so like if I started talking and someone says strawman, I'd be like, wait, okay, like, what did I get wrong? Clarify it. Then it would require the other person to have good faith enough to, as quickly and concisely as possible, clarify what they got wrong and give it back to them, not just be like, oh, now I go for 3 minutes again. Right. And so, like, that, it's just like an abuse. It's just like good faith is required to have the back and forth and the interjection and stuff. Then you lose so much value in terms of debate if it's just like timed rounds. so much value. And then people can be super deceptive, and it's like you end up spending most of it just correcting what was maybe even said in the first like 10 seconds of their point, and then that ends up turning into 3 or 4 rounds. You know what I'm saying? Because when people ask me my preferred format, I always say I like if MBD does or whatever, I say like open back and forth, like openings, and then open back and forth. That's moderated. That's
Moderated,
kind of
right?
the best. That's like the best situation, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tricky in here because like you're not gonna be able to ensure that both people are going to be good faith, I guess, right? So I don't know.
So Gio, in terms of what, to add on to what you're saying, what's it saying? I think that there should be no meta, right? Or bloviating or grandstanding to the audience where people are like, you see what he just did right there? This is a perfect example of why you shouldn't trust us, blah, 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 and make these generalized
Whoa. You know how
statements.
much of which it's going to be censored now? Because he does a lot of that.
You're trying to totally. I no. I totally do that.
You
But
do
I
that,
try to do it very fast though. But
but
like it's
still.
like I'm only gonna get jabbed so many times for jabbing back. I'm just gonna say, bro. And I'm not gonna. That's like inbuilt in me. So I mean, good luck.
Well, right, but I'm just saying before it even gets to that point where you feel the need to do it back, right? I think it should just be strictly on the argument. Like it should be a good faith argument where if someone says something about, for example, relativity, that if the other person starts to argue about something that isn't relativity, that a moderator should step in and say, you need to stick onto the argument, otherwise it's not good faith. And then that gives the other side an opportunity to say, can you steel man what I just said in order to refute what I just said? And if they can't steel man it, then you could have a discussion about like whether someone reiterates their point and gives them another chance to actually rebut it, or if they just want to concede. And if they don't concede and make all these tactics and bad faith argumentation, then at a certain point there should be an ending.
All
Because
right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
On
yeah.
both sides.
So the idea of doing the timed rounds, like Witsit was saying, I can see the challenges in that. I mean, if they were timed to like 30 seconds, maybe that's a little different because then you feel like, okay, there's not too much to cover. But if it's like 2 minute, 3 minute, I hear what you're saying. If it's just like one dude's muted, the other guy gets to go for 3 minutes, and then the other, I understand like that it's not, the negatives to that as well. But I guess like what you're talking about, like what would need to happen then with like Tony and Witsit, for example, like to have not happen what happened yesterday again with like
Yeah.
it would go back and forth, it'd be good, and then Tony, he's deafened right now, he would generally like just lose his control and then start
Scattergun.
screaming over
Yeah.
Witsit, and then it would be like 3 minutes of like intermission basically of like meta and fighting and some ad homs and insults and then chaos, and somebody would try to mute Tony because that's not good either. Like if the other debater's getting muted, they feel like they're being censored. But here's another way to do it, like what Witsit's saying, is have it like very heavily moderated to the point to where, let's say Witsit and Tony are going back and forth, and let's say I was modding, for example, or Beast or whoever was modding, you could, like both of those people could agree that they could be muted, basically, and then the mods step in, kind of like a judge in a court that's like, boom, he slams a gavel, and it's like it goes right to the judge every time. Like if the judge wants to speak in a court, he always can speak. He can always tell everyone to basically stop talking, and he gets to go. So in here, the equivalent would be muting. That way, like let's say Tony starts talking and it says, and Witsit says straw man, and then Tony starts fighting, and then there's then the mod could maybe just mute Tony. I mean, I know Witsit, you probably don't want to be muted, but I mean you can mute. I don't know if you probably won't need to be muted because you generally will pull back and you're not going to be the one that's like out of hand. But anyways, I'm just saying if it was very heavily modded, where the guy who's in the debate knows that he's not being like censored or shut down or anything, he might be temporarily muted so that we can get clarity. Like, okay, let's say that happens, Tony's going wild, mute Tony, say, okay, Witsit, you called a straw man, Tony, Witsit, we're going to address this. Anyways, I'm just saying, like, in a way that's heavily modded to where the muting is not about like censoring or trying to shut anyone down or have it be unfair. It would just be about like literally getting order, so that we can move forward and just go right to what needs to happen. If there was something needs to be addressed rather than, the like,
Yeah.
no one's
Yeah.
muted
This
and there's
was
5 people jumping in. Yeah.
Yeah, because like there's gonna be downsides to almost everything, I guess. Like the other downside to like time rounds is then each person feels like they need to fit as much in as possible in their round. So then it becomes like impossible to even follow the actual value of the discussion of like in hope of getting to any like fruitful conclusion really gets like far away, right? Because you're just trying to keep up with the other person said, rebut, and then get as much in as you can during your time and all of that. And then something like you're saying may would work. Like to me, I'm not gonna say I've always done this or anything. Like, dude, I've had plenty of moments in here. I've done it, but like I do always try to. If someone says straw man, I try to immediately say, okay, how to straw man you? What's the straw man? Like that's the actual solution. So like if we're talking about like the optimal solution is that both people just have good faith. What do you gain if you strawman the person and you beat it up? You didn't do anything, right? So it's like I don't know if you could ever get in a situation where you could ensure that everyone involved in debates are gonna actually do it, right? But like if I start talking and I try to recap Tony's point and then I'm gonna rebut it. If he's like, "That's not what I said," or straw man, I'd be like, "Okay, how's that a straw man?" And then Tony would have to then, in good faith, only talk about that, you know. But from my
It's
experience yesterday, that's not what would happen at all. Like if he had a said straw man and I yielded to him, then he would have gone on for another 3 minutes or whatever. So then I had to like start to adapt to it, where then it's almost like I have to interject. That's the only way. I have to kind of fight back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, like, and then like with what you're saying, sure, if we can pull it off, it maybe would be a good solution because you're gonna now put quite a bit of responsibility on the people being the mods, right? It's like almost a job for them as opposed to, oh, these people are gonna go back and forth one on one. Let me sit back, kind of listen. It's more like laborious, you know what I mean? Like now they're actively having to like basically parent people. I mean, it would work. It would fix the problem if there were certain objections that would be noted. Like, so if you say straw man, and then there would have to be some type of system, say straw man. That's the biggest one. Like, the biggest one for me is is like scattergunning tons and tons and tons and tons of points and going super long, where I have to interrupt or straw mans. And I mean, sometimes make tons of points as well. So like, I mean, I can take correction there, whatever. But like um, I think that if you just have a list of what the permissible objections are, and then they say them, they have to actually adhere to the rules. Like, and if we got really into logic, there's very specific parameters for all this. Like this is a valid argument. This is what his argument structure actually was. What are you saying the straw man was? I don't know if there's any hopes that we ever get that advanced in here, maybe, but like, okay, just to concise say what I'm saying. If you say the straw man, you're like, wait, okay, dude called a straw man. Okay, objection heard. They have to only clarify what they said that wasn't truly their point, what their real point was, clarify it and give it back. And if
right.
they started abusing the system, there'd have to be some type of checks and balances. Like, wait, nah, dude, you're not doing what the rules are, type of thing.
Right, because often if that happens, if we did yield, then the person will clarify their position and they'll go on with a whole bunch of things and finish it with 5 ad homs, and you're right. It's just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, Tony's on deafen. He did bring up a point, and then we went into this. I was just trying to. I mean, dude, yesterday could have been so much better. Like, it's just. I know Tony is tough to deal with, but he does have a lot of knowledge and information to share. I mean, obviously you were sparring with him, so I mean, it would have been. I had a hard time following it because of all the interruptions and chaos, and it was just tough. Like, and I wanted to hear the actual points more clearly. So, and just to have it be edifying, just spending our time, and it goes for other people too. I mean, even when there's other one-on-ones as well. I mean, these happen all the time, and then there's the chaos that ensues when a bunch of other people jump in. So, yeah, it's a lot to figure out. It's just worth. Yeah, I mean, this was good that we talked about this. I guess it's not always the easiest, but like overall, either the timed thing of back and forth, where there, like you said, though, there's negatives to that, or having, like we're talking about, like a moderator with, because they have that's what courts, in court systems, right? You have your objections and, and you have all that and sustained or upheld, all of the things that happen, when
And
in
think about
courts.
it, in the court system, it's for the same purpose, which is like when you object, is to make sure that the jury doesn't hear, like that you don't taint the jury, which would be akin to tainting the audience. So like if they're strawmanning you, you're objecting to stop this big, because if they fully strawman your point and then they make what sounds like a reasonable point that makes sense, they're like, oh yeah, so then the other guy's wrong. But really, it's not what you said. That's the same in court, right? You're actually like objections in court are to prevent, say, the defense or prosecution from even being able to say the things out loud in open court so that the jury can hear them. So it's like literally the same thing. Like court is like the perfectly run debates.
You know, that was some of it was good. I was listening to part of it yesterday. I was really busy. I even wanted to get in at one point, but yeah, it was a bit out of control. I think in that situation, the answer would have been more aggressive moderation. Like maybe there wasn't somebody available or whatever, but in a situation like that, a moderator has to step in, I think.
Yeah,
Well, let's
see,
talk
that
about the
would have.
unspoken part of it too, though. So, like the people like PhD Tony from the other side that do have a PhD, that do have as much professional experience as him, and as much maybe even like knowledge, academic knowledge as he has, is somewhat valuable. So then people are afraid to just mute that person a lot because if they just leave, then it's like, oh well, then the whole opportunity is lost. And I feel like that is another thing that keeps the mods kind of almost afraid to just moderate like normal.
Yeah, but that's the case, dude. The thing about when people like are frustrated sometimes, and like when they'll call for a mod, or they'll even they'll call my name, like Geo. Dude, the thing is, there is a lot of like, if I use the word like karmic weight around modding someone, because like they may feel like they're censored in some way or shape or form. So there, it's not like I don't ever want to censor anyone ever, like in my life, you know. So it's very, very, and I don't think other mods want to either. You know, now if a mod really wants to censor, they probably won't be a mod here because that would be caught very early if they're modding to censor people because we don't want to do that at all. So I'm just saying, like when people like, I know it's frustrating when you're in a combo and it feels like someone needs to be muted and it's like, oh, why aren't the moderators doing anything? But you just have to understand on the other side of it, there's a lot of like weight around the like morality and ethics around actually muting someone. That's why you'll see when I do it, I might mute like either both persons or one person, and I'll jump in and quickly say, "Hey, I muted you only temporarily. You know, we're just, I'll do that right away, so they don't just feel like what I've just been muted out of the blue." Whereas other mods sometimes they're just trying to mod, so they might just mute the person, but they might be planning to unmute them when the other guy's done, but then they feel like they're being shut down, feel like they're being censored because there was some kind of fight in the middle, and the mod had to make the choice of like, okay, who do I think interrupted first? And it's so complicated to do. That's why, like, if anything, we err on the side of not muting, but then it resolves in sometimes more chaos. Whereas other times, if there was more aggressive muting, then people could feel like they're being censored. It's tough. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, with PhD Tony, yeah, I saw people muting him, and then I jumped in to unmute him because, like you said, Witsa, I don't want him to feel like. I mean, he hasn't actually spent that much time on this server, actually. I don't think so. I
So
don't want him to feel like he's being censored either. So yeah, it's tough.
No, I
I
agree
say with
because
that
like
often.
there was a lot of value in talking to him. Like if you were to idealize that situation. For example, I've never had the argument, the first and second law argument, with someone that knew as much of the most update BS. I mean, like, respectfully or whatever, like the like academic pseudoscience BS about whatever desperate mental gymnastics they're doing to just anything but God, the beginning of the universe. Like the pre-blink time. Like, most people just are like never even thought of any of it. And to me, that also helps me. It helps me like fully sharpen in the sense that I understand like the best the alternative could ever say. And so like I didn't want him to be overly muted and then leave. And then another thing is like I like to try to handle myself. There's just sometimes you can't. Like if someone's gonna actually scream over you and never let you, you know what I mean? Like there is actually a point where you can't do anything unless you're going to devolve with them, I guess. But like I don't know. I think that even just vocalization of moderators, like, "Hey, look, man, we're kind of cool with interjections back and forth. We like to let it be free." Normally, Geo says like this exact same thing. It's just like he's usually the only one, and then it all falls on him, I guess. But it's like we like to let it be free flowing. We're cool with some interjections back and forth and just like free flowing convo, but try to be respectful of the other person when it's their turn and don't steamroll them or whatever. If people just can't be like, if people can't respect that, I don't know. Then yeah, I mean, maybe they do just have to
did,
be muted. Some, I don't know.
did you find the meaning that did you come to the explanation of Planck time?
It's just Planck is just a unit of measurement of it's an abstract idea of the smallest amount of
The
something, and
short
so they're
that's right, yeah. That's right.
yeah.
The
So
shortest, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they're just saying like like of the shortest, smallest amount of time conceivable, which I guess in theory would be sequential to it not being there, right? Like the first stage of it would be the smallest amount of it. They look at time. This is what was so wild talking to him yesterday. They conceptualize time as an actual like thing that has a quantity, like you filled up a bucket.
That's when I wanted to come in, bro. Like they make time into matter. Like they make it into a thing.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
unbelievable.
It
Yeah.
is wild, dude. It is wild. We all intuitively know that's not the case. Like we intuitively know it's just a much more abstract thing. It is this thing that plays a role in our existence, like passing and progression, and like it's hard to wrap your mind around. And we all know it's like metaphysical. It isn't like a thing that you can, like it's not matter at all, or even like materialistic.
Yeah. So by first intent, they make a mistake, right? By step one, they make a mistake. They make time into a fourth dimension. It's like, are you kidding me? And you want to argue that? It's like, I don't know, man.
He kept asking me, can time be orthogonal to what we perceive? I was like, what?
Yeah. That's kind of weird. Yeah. Don't get me
Yeah, no,
wrong. I
I know.
like Tony. I've always gotten along with Tony, right? And he's a very smart dude. It's not his fault. It's the model. That's what they believe in. So, I mean, it's refreshing and it's good for people to hear this as well, because a lot of people don't really understand how fanciful the pseudo model is. It's incredible.
That's true. And then what happens is because people don't know how fanciful it is, the people that are within it equate that to, well, they just don't, they're just ignorant. That's why they don't think it's true. That's actually not the case, though, because the very simplistic refutations, they hold true all the way throughout all of the pseudoscience, no matter how fanciful it is, you know? So, but yeah. No, I guess like the idea is that they conceptualize like what Hawking did was take time, and he's like, okay, I can't conceive of a universe without a beginning. I'm gonna have to like the only way you could even do that in theory is to change what time is, and then claim that there was a time, ironically, where time didn't exist as it does now. And so then he just like plugged in like a mathematical placeholder of like imaginary, and then you conceptualize it as like dimensional, basically.
That word
You know.
when is the problem. There was a time when, or there was a time before, or before time existed. All of this stuff is a problem because you're invoking time to say that there was no time before it. It's absurd.
Right. And then to like explain why
Yes,
there's
but
no
you're the
beginning to the
one
universe.
doing it, right? You're the one saying that God was able to do things in sequence before the universe was created, before time existed. So you're the ones who are invoking that there was a sequence of events before time even existed. Before the universe was brought into existence, time existed because God was doing stuff. So
No, I could give you my time argument. That's not my argument.
but okay, then go through the time argument.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I have it written down because I write down my arguments. 1 second.
Dang, Tony, it's early. It's pretty early in the night. You're trying to get diced up by Galley already, bro.
Round 2 of
Sorry,
12
I didn't
hours
understand
starts
what you
now.
The
Are y'all
full
gonna do the
dimensional
mod
thing.
thing, or y'all gonna like stage them like y'all
Yeah,
were talking about?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm modding. Yeah, I'm mod. I'm gonna
All right,
mod
so
fair, Tony. I'm gonna mod Tony. Can we lay these out here, dude? Like, say your point fully.
No,
Like the way I.
with all due respect, Witsit, I don't trust you as a mod. I'd rather
oh
somebody
my
else did it.
gosh, oh my
Okay,
gosh.
okay. Still,
I don't have a problem being modded. That's a valid
I'm not
suggestion.
supposed to do it. They
I
can
am
do.
not
But
comfortable
I'm just
with
gonna
you
lay out the
doing
rules
it.
that we were just discussing either way. Gotcha, man. Okay, but I'm gonna lay out the rules either way. So like, you have to let the other person kind of say their point. I think that typically, if we were just talking about like the ideal situation, is that like the occasional interjection maybe is permissible if it's like a very concise interjection. Like if you think if you in good faith think the person misunderstood what you were saying, and you're like, oh, like straw man, that's not what I was saying, and you just only clarify real fast so that they can then address what you were actually saying. But generally speaking, people have their points, then you rest the mic and you let them finish their point, right? Like that's just the way it is. You
What if
can't
either one of
just.
y'all? What if either one of them says please? I
Hold
mean, if
on,
the other
dude.
guy says please, just say please.
Oh man, your mic is clipping. Sorry, I muted you for a sec, Don.
He's always so loud. Like, so you can't arbitrarily like determine, well, you know what, I think they got that so wrong that I'm gonna just steamroll them and take it back, right? We're not cool with that, because if I did that, everyone's always gonna think that they're right, so they would do it all the time, so that can't be a standard, right?
Yes,
So anyway,
but there's a difference, right? There's a difference between an objective fact and an opinion, right?
that's what the debate's for, right? So like
No, it
like the
isn't.
debate.
No, it isn't. Debates are not about objective facts, right?
Well, the debates
So
are
if
about the
somebody
delineation.
says something that is objectively factually incorrect, that is not an opinion. That is just a falsehood.
Well, Tony, what you don't get is a lot of the things that you seem to identify as objective facts. There's a lot of contention with your delineation of that, hence the
Um,
debate.
No. Yes, there are delusional people, there are wrong people, there are people who don't understand the topic, and they get the facts wrong. But that
So
doesn't change.
we can know things with 100% certainty as we go into this debate. Awesome.
All right, well, Tony,
So,
we're
yeah.
just trying to. I mean, yeah, we're just
No,
trying.
that's not what I'm saying.
All right, we're just trying to talk about ways to improve the back and forth. Tony, we don't ever want to censor anyone here, so we don't want to have it be where it gets chaotic. People are being muted and they feel like they're being censored, because it's never what we're trying to do. So we're just trying. Yesterday was great when you guys were going back and forth. There was a lot of good information, but it also got fairly chaotic, going off the rails. And then the over talking. So we're just trying to figure out, in terms of all of this, just how to kind of improve. How we can moderate more effectively when it gets that heated. I mean, we're always doing that over all these years, but I'm just saying, so what you were talking about yesterday, you did mention something about if someone strawmans you, you don't want to let them go on and on, so that's where the point, like Witzer was saying, if someone does feel like they're strawman, if we could allow the other person to clarify why it was a straw man, but that doesn't mean that they get to just go on and on their points. They're just clarifying the straw man, and then it goes back to the person so they can have clarity. However, if you feel like someone said something wrong, that you may have to just wait until you can rebut it. You know what I mean? Because if we're going to allow interruptions for every time someone thinks someone's wrong, then people are just going to be, you know what I mean? Because that's the whole, people are going to feel that all the time. And that's,
Yeah, because you guys fundamentally think each other are wrong in entirety based on the subject being discussed. That's why there's a debate.
But is there such a thing as objective reality?
Well, you tell me. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, something that is 100% the case.
If somebody says something, for example, like there's a magnet in the course of their argument, there are unicorns that cause the sun to carry the sun around in the sky, right? Is that some? And I understand and I appreciate your desire for clarity and free flow in the discussion. What I want is better definition about what I can engage with and what I can't.
If someone says that, like, either don't debate with them if you think it's so absurd that there's no point in debate, or if you're choosing to debate with them, you have to let them just say their point, man. Maybe they had a vision and they saw unicorns, whatever it is, whatever their standard of truth is, it's just that's what debate is. We cannot, it's a slippery slope to be like, I think the person's wrong, I have to enter. No matter how convicted you are about how much you think they're wrong, because that will be an untenable situation. Everyone will just interrupt at free will at that point.
Yes, I get this, but this is why fact-checking is an important component, right? We can fact-check whether or not a claim is supported by evidence or not. Can't we do that?
Use your turn to do that, man.
And this is one of the things that I think is sort of overlooked is when somebody makes a claim, we can go and fact check that claim, right?
We can, yes. I would say use your turn to do that because I often feel like that's mostly what my debates turn into is me having to specifically identify why the other person's wrong and cite the evidence. So just do that on your turn, bro.
Well, it's strange that you didn't do that at any point in the 8 hours that we discussed. You never introduced any observable evidence supporting your side. You never
Okay, well, I
provided
agree to agree
hypothesis.
to disagree, man. Maybe go back and listen to it. I'm not trying to debate you, bro. And you're saying you don't want me to mind. That's cool. The rules are the rules. The rules are, man. Like if you feel like you're being strawman, you can interject. If you think that something's wrong, you need to wait till it's done. Then you can articulate that you think it's wrong. Very basic rules, and this is the only tenable way to have a debate that can be any type, like without audio chaos. You have to understand. Think about someone else trying to listen to us talk yesterday when if I felt like I was in the middle of my point or vice versa, and then the other person starts screaming over them and is just going to steamroll them, all the other people here, they don't hear you, they don't hear your steamroll, and they don't hear the other person. So like it's literally useless. Whether or not if your goal here is to make sure you show everyone that that's not the actual facts, well, you're not accomplishing that goal by doing that
No.
because no one can hear anything.
Well, what if my goal is to prevent somebody else from prevent somebody else's lies from being heard?
I'd say go to another server that promotes censorship.
So it's okay to lie to people.
Dude,
Well,
nobody
It's
said
okay
that.
it's okay to say things that are
Straw
factually
man,
untrue.
straw man.
Strawman, yeah.
Is
No,
it
like,
okay to say something that's factually untrue or not?
Well,
Well,
but
first
Tony,
of all,
that's
live-
what the debate is, though. But that's usually what's being debated is what is true. So that's the whole point. And that's what Witz is saying. Just use your time, Okay, a straw man or a personal attack, those are where there's issues because you don't want to let someone straw man you and then go on for 5 minutes on a long monologue while there was a straw man because then it's kind of a waste of time because if the person says, okay, so what you're saying is this, this, and that, and then they're going to go on, you need to make sure that that's what the person's saying. That's why a little interjection, make sure that makes sense. But if we're going to interrupt at every single point that you think is not factual or that I think is not factual, then that's going to be a lot more complex. Why don't you just use, I think just use your time, your minute and a half, section of speaking to lay down the facts. Then everybody can hear that, and that's what a rebuttal is.
Okay, you've made yourself very clear. I have a question. Is it okay for my interlocutor to open with an ad hominem distortion of what just happened?
That's
typically try not to.
Is
That's
that
a
a
problem
valid
too.
because I don't think that that's valid if we're trying to have a debate about what is factually true and what is observationally supported. That has no place in it, but it is like 50% of what Witsit does.
Okay, disagree. But like, okay, yeah, we try not to ad hom people. What you're labeling as an ad hom from last night is when I was characterizing your argument itself colorfully, right? And that's actually not an ad hom. So because
Then don't
the
do
fact
it.
I think your
Yeah.
argument is absurd doesn't mean I'm personally attacking you. I mean, one could critique. I could take some critique that maybe I should limit how colorful
It's
my critique of your argument is. But
maybe
we
just don't do it at all and present the evidence.
Well, that's the point. The point is that when it's my turn, I want to make sure I say, okay, so then what he's now presented is this, this, and this, and this is what's wrong with those things. So that's the
But
reason the straw man's important.
I don't want you summarizing what I just said if your summary is incorrect. Right,
Well,
which is routinely what you do.
you're saying you don't like debates, I guess, like because when you say it's incorrect, like half the time you were voicing contention, you ended up saying the same thing. So like you didn't like
Yes,
how
because
colorful I was.
I would explain something to you, and then you would go back and act as if you hadn't received the explanation.
Well, if that's
Tony,
your
would you like to
experience.
have a debate or not?
You would repeat the same claim. The
All right,
number
cool, man.
of times
Look,
you
hey,
read
all
that
right,
Hawkins
thanks.
quote,
I'll work on it. Okay, so I'm not wanting to debate you. I am debated out with you. So, like, if you want to debate Galley, that's cool. Like, you don't want me to mod, that's cool. If someone else in here can mod. Well, I guess the point being, the reason I started talking to you is what we can't do, dude, is have you just completely dominate the mic and then hijack it from the other person just because you arbitrarily choose to that it's a good time to do so because you think what you have to say is more important than what they have to say. You have to let both people speak.
So it would be much easier. It would be much easier if it were you need to shut up while the other person is speaking, rather than trying to make a judgment call about what is a valid interjection and what isn't. So
we only gave one exception of a valid interjection, and it's like if you truly in good faith
it's your favorite. Right?
If you
it's
truly
your favorite. You constantly chirp in with straw man every time somebody is speaking. So it's your favorite thing that has been made the exception.
This doesn't really sound constructive to me at all.
No, we're talking about two things, strawmans or ad homs. Tony, I agree with you. This happens. This has been going on for years, not just from you guys yesterday. I mean, this is a big issue that's been dealt with for forever, which is that if there's two people going back real heated or pretty strong, and when the one guy starts with an ad hom and then goes on and on, it instantly causes chaos because the other person's going to interrupt. Nobody wants to be insulted or disparaged and then not be able to either defend themselves and respond or have the person do that and then go on after that with a long point, that's basically like, oh, you're an idiot and here's all this information. And it's just like that. Nobody wants to have that happen. It's like public shaming basically, and it's got issues. That's why in courts they don't allow that to happen, etc. So that is an issue, and that's where we just have to not have ad homs. I think as adults, we all, at best we can, should hopefully be able not to do that, but people do get heated, or they make comments that are not even directly an ad hom, but it's kind of in the range of one, but sometimes they're attacking the argument, not the person. It's complicated. I mean, potentially that could be another reason to do an interjection. And I don't know where do you go with that though? Hey, they ad hom me. The person says, okay, I'm sorry. And then move on. I don't know. I'm not an idiot. Okay. I'm not. Now you're going to debate whether they're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, that is something where usually sometimes the mods will just step in and remind, please don't ad hom. But that's where things go off the rails because people are going to want to defend themselves.
And let me say this, dude. The actual solution in debate, because like every time I've ever been on MDD, actually 90% of what's said from the other side was ad homs. And then 90% of super chats were ad homs. And I did not just start incessantly interrupting the other person. What I did was wait till I could speak and then point it out to the audience that it was an ad hom. Because a good faith person in the audience would be like, oh, wow, so yeah, they really don't have anything other than to personally attack. So just do that.
That's absolutely untrue. You constantly chirp in with fallacies.
That's right. That's right.
So is it okay for somebody to chirp in with a claim that that's a fallacy? Because that is a fact claim, right?
Well, I think we are now saying no. That's what we're trying to say.
Okay. But you do.
Oh, you're trying to dominate the rules of moderation, Tony. You're doing it right now. Okay. You're not a moderator. I'm not trying to debate you. I'm just trying to lay out what we just talked about.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I am clarifying that you understand that your historical behavior will not be permitted under these rules.
Correct. Yes, and by the way, when you say you don't get to just start trying to dominate me again. This is the whole thing you're not allowed to do.
I started talking and you started talking and I
Okay, this is just
stopped.
It's like this it's it's unavoidable. Like, okay, I just started trying to talk, you try to talk over me, it's all good. My point is, yes, yesterday eventually it got to the point where I felt like if I didn't interject what I thought the fallacies were, I felt like I wasn't even getting a fair equivocation of time. Okay. You can agree to disagree with my recollection about yesterday's debate. That's not what this is about. I don't want to debate you right now. If you want to talk to Galley about the time situation, sounds good. We're saying please do not interrupt. It doesn't matter if you arbitrarily or subjectively think that your point is better or that they're wrong about something. That's what the debate's for. Okay, cool.
Okay. So I have conceded several times that I understand that this is a debate platform. I understand that Geo has the right to impose standards. I understand that Geo is in the room, therefore you must be accurately representing the rules. What I am making clear is what I'm making certain of is that I properly understand what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, and that you understand that a lot of the stuff that you, not yesterday, but in our MDD debate, every sentence I said you would recite a
What's going to
fallacy.
be the topic, and are we going to do the debate today or tomorrow?
All right. Well, let me say so real quick, Tony. This is not only a debate. We do debates. But we also have a lot of other discussions that are not debates. So I'm just saying it's not only debating, but we do obviously debates. Now we generally like every interaction is different. So we have moderators, and we tend to kind of adjust it, and everyone's kind of understands a lot of factors. But what we're talking about now is just a little bit more refining. Now we could make these specifics a bit more universal for everybody. Like, for example, strawmans are okay to do an interjection, and the moderators will respect that. Ad homs, whether that is or is not okay to stop the other person and then clarify or try to get past that point so that that's not on the table. Now, the fallacies thing is another complex one because that could get into the point where if someone just thinks someone's wrong, for example, does that mean they can interject? Well, that can get complicated. There's going to be a lot of interjections and people won't get to say their points. That would maybe the same with fallacies, or it might be more towards that category where there's going to be a lot of claims of fallacies. That might be better to wait until it's the next person's turn to actually rebut it, like add the fallacy to the rebuttal. Now, there's different kinds of fallacies, though. If it's an ad hom fallacy or a straw man fallacy, those are the ones we're talking about are more problematic. Versus something like tu quoque or some of these appeal to authority, some of these other ones that could just be addressed in the point. Now, with all this being said, we could actually add to the actual server guidelines on the server an added section that would have what we're talking about right now, just so it's a little bit more, for everybody when it goes into debate style. Because we normally kind of take it as it comes and we go as it goes. But I mean, these are issues that happen and have happened in the past too. So I think we're kind of advancing in general as a community and just in general how to do this more effectively. So I think this has been a good conversation, and I think you guys last night maybe brought it more to the surface as well. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, just saying, you clearly do an excellent job, and I'll do my best. As has been pointed out, I am on the autism spectrum, so sometimes my impulse control isn't what it should be. So I will ask people's forbearance because I will probably screw up. But you've very clearly communicated the requirements. I will do my best to honor them. And if you
Sir,
feel
did
that
you get a lot of vaccines when you were younger?
Hold on, dude. That's not valid. Keep going, Tony.
Open to criticism and feedback, and you're not the first people to point out that I have poor impulse control and that I have a low temperature, a low temper threshold. That's fine. That's good feedback. Hopefully I can cleave to the standards which have been very, very fairly and clearly communicated to me. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. You cut out a little bit there. It would be great also if you could figure out that thing with your internet.
Yeah.
You cut out
So,
for a few
I just need to reboot my router, so I may disappear for a little bit.
Okay, but I hear what you said, and you're not the only one that has those things. Everybody does in different ways. People do on a spectrum, as it were, of different levels of that, and that's why every day we go in and out of different modes, different zones, depending on who's talking, and so on. But this has been a good talk. I think taking what we've talked about, it may be good. Like we could maybe add something to the server guidelines that would kind of denote this, because it's great to have the open panel and to have everyone be able to discuss and all of that, but there are the challenges, and then the challenges with moderation, and then these specific issues. And I mean, Witsit, would you agree that it's like that the ad homs and the strawmans are the two things that would be valid for interjections, whereas other things you're going to have to wait till your turn to actually rebut them?
Yeah. I mean, I think we do that most, if you think about it, usually usually what will happen, I guess, is like ad homs will go back and forth for a sec. Like actually they'll go back and forth for a sec, and then someone will jump in. Or if it's very obvious, someone just keeps ad homing someone, basically the whole room will come off their mic and tell them to stop. But yeah, I would say in general, those are like the two, right? Because those are both like the one that significantly increase the chances that the person feels they have to interrupt, right? Because
Dude,
if you're
I'll be honest.
mischaracterized and you're like, you want to defend yourself.
Dude, yeah, I consider myself on the scale of interruptions like very, very low. Like if it's 1 to 10, like 9 or 10 out of 10s are the people that interrupt the most, and 0 or 1 is being the least. I've got to be down at the 1 range. Like I really don't didn't interrupt like much at all. However, the 2 times that I've noticed I do is those 2, like straw man. Maybe the ad hom is not really. I mean, I might jump in to moderate if it's that, but I think it's really more the straw man, or just when you feel like it's just that thing. If you're going back and forth really heated, and then if the guy comes, like you say your point, and then their response is, so what you're saying is this, and then they're going to go on the whole point. That is what gets everybody, because it's like, if it's not what you said, you do not want that person to do an entire rebuttal on something you didn't say, because it's going to make it look like you said something you didn't, and then it's not even representing you. Now you're being misrepresented for like a minute or 2 or 2.5 minutes, however long it takes for them to go and say their thing. So that's where it actually would make sense, like just overall for everybody in terms of the moderation.
Yeah,
that we
because their
we
whole
could do
argument is pointless. Yeah, their whole argument is pointless. Like, but I will say my opinion on it, and like I've had to try to consciously make myself get better at this. Is like, in my opinion, is if someone ad homs you, take it as like a test of personal control to not like even let it get to you. So like, the strawmans are much more aggravating for me, right? Like, it's like if someone says like this guy's a dirty lying thief, like you're not, like, right? Who cares, right? Like, or like, oh, this guy's a Masonic Illuminati. He sold out and sold his soul to deceive the world in Antarctica. Like, I don't care. Like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like I think Adham is a little bit touchier, in terms of like justifying this, steamrolling the other person or whatever, but whatever. There should be no ad homs. I think, and this is by the way, I gotta say this. Technically, an ad hom is actually when instead of attacking the argument, you attack the person, and I think it's distasteful. I think probably I've done this, no doubt, plenty, but to just like take jabs at the other person or insult the other person, and you can do that without it technically being an ad hom. Because if they proceed to then actually attack the argument, then it's not an ad hom, right? But I think that either way, it's not preferable, right? Because if you hear someone mischaracterize you, then you have to just sit there for like 2-3 minutes. That's the component, and I agree with you. That makes it like really hard to not interrupt, especially if you feel like you waited patiently, and then they're just going on and on and on and bringing up point after point after point and different point. You're like, okay, now, dude, I gotta step in. So anyway, I know it was a lot, but yeah, we'll see. We'll have to just ask
Just
everyone
let them
not to
go
do
and say
this.
please. If they say please, that's it. Whoever can't respect the please is the butthead. Put them on them.
Okay. Is Galley in here still?
The thing that happens real quick with the thing that happens, if we're going to shift out of this meta discussion, the thing with the ad homs is that I hear you with it. Like, if that's why I said I probably don't really interrupt if someone ad homs me. I might just mod or just let it go or whatever, because but that takes the restraint to not take that personally. And people have egos and whatever. So generally, if someone wants to throw one back is what happens. That's why we mod for it. We don't mod for it out of like the snowflake thing. Like, we don't mod for it so that people's feelings aren't hurt. People's feelings do get hurt. I actually do think that's a real thing, but that's not really why we mod for it. We mod for it because it creates chaos, it distracts, it derails, and now we're not even talking about intellectual or truth or anything. We're just like, you're a this, you're a that, you're a this, you're a that, and it's just like we're just spending all of our time doing insult after insult, because what happens is one guy insults, the other guy wants to do it back, the other guy wants to do it back, and it ends up being like a side tactic of like, how much can you disparage the person's character while trying to prove that they're wrong, and then it gets into that. So that's where like just the general modding happens. Yeah, I mean,
And there's
whether
a
that's
major distinction between debate and just the conversations we typically have in here, right? Like a major difference.
right.
Because I think, we have like open panel discussions a lot, and like people like maybe insult, like we actually let a lot of that go. I don't know if in my opinion, actually, you don't want to necessarily change that too much. Like, one of the things that make EA, right? Like if it's like an open panel style, and then it's not preferred, right? Like there's like randomly someone's got some history of beef, and all of a sudden they just jump off their mics and start going at each other. We try to rein it in, but like we don't want to apply. I mean, obviously there's a major difference with like a debate rules and that. Because sometimes it's actually better to like both people get something off for like 10 seconds, and then you're like, okay, we got to stop. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, you get it. There's a difference in debate and like I would say my opinion, for whatever it's worth, is like you obviously don't want to apply like overall debate rules to open panel. Obviously, it
Right.
just destroys the free flow value of the combo.
Well,
Yeah,
this should
yeah.
apply to a one-on-one mostly, right? That's what I thought we were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just I think the rules can still kind of apply to open panel though, because what ends up happening is people go back and forth about their points. So it's the same thing. Like if someone's going to straw man you at the beginning of their point and talk for 3 minutes, like if you want, in my opinion, it should be good faith on both sides. The person be like, "Oh, that's not actually what I said." So let me clarify so that you can actually debate what I said. There's this weird part. You're not going to be able to go to the server guidelines and you could put be good faith, but you're not going to actually be able to translate that to real world enforcement. So that's the tricky part. We should just maybe ask people to be good faith and explain what that means maybe more often.
Yeah. No, that is tougher to mod for, yeah, because it could be somewhat subjective to a degree, and then, yeah, that's where it gets challenging. Like you have to be genuine. For example, it's like, what is someone might consider something disingenuous or genuine, or if the person just, yeah, something could be called disingenuous when actually the person was being genuine. They just, didn't understand what you said or misheard or something. But yeah. Well, it might be useful to put
Talking
together.
too long.
There's that too. It might be useful to put together like a little added, like in the server guidelines, or like some added like mode that we can shift into in this debate mode, and then get all the mods on the same page, or like all the mods can debate for those specific. It might make it more. Just, I mean, we talk about like we do the 1v1, like, oh, if someone wants a 1v1, they can kind of call for it. But even that's not always modded as cleanly as it could be, because you know how that is too. And it's an open panel. Like let's say that SE and I start going, like let's say it's open, but then SE and I start going back and forth real quick. Well, yeah, you can call for a quick 1-to-1, and we should maybe do that more. Because I'm saying what happens. Let's say SE and I are going back and forth. I say a point, he says a point, he rebuts my point, and then someone else jumps in. Everyone's experienced that in here too, which is frustrating. Because then it's like, like now you don't get to say your thing. That someone else is going to come in with something else.
Yeah.
It punishes restraint actually, because like if the person is misrepresenting you and you're showing tons and tons and tons of restraint, and then as soon as they get done, they're like someone else just like jumps in. You're like, okay, so I just got punished by not interrupting, right?
Right.
That's what that basically turns into.
I know, by being good faith and letting them go and being respectful, right? And then someone else jumps in before you. Yeah.
I think, however, it varies in context, right? Because it may be the case that a third interlocutor does have a valid expansion on a point that was just made, right? It can.
Yeah, it's more so like. Yeah, but I think to clarify, it's like if the person's saying something directed at the other person, that's when you got to let that other person respond first.
Well, you say must. So somebody can have supplementary information that will make it possible for the person who's being addressed to offer a more complete rebuttal. It's possible that if the first person only presented part of the argument or part of the data, and that the other person is coming in with supplementary data that will make the person's response, that will give the person responding an opportunity to respond more meaningfully, because otherwise they respond and then the person comes in with the supplementary data that may invalidate their response or may require their response to go in a different direction. Do you see what I'm saying? Or am I
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's like a hyper specific thing. Like, yeah, sure, I agree with you. But like I think that what happens most in this room actually is not that. It's like it'll be a personal. It'll even usually have like some attacks in there, whatever. It'll be personally directed to someone, and then there's like a group. I can speak from my experience. It'll be a group of people that are really wanting their shot at me. So one person will take their shot at me. I'm going to be real patient and let it happen. And then when I go to defend myself, another person will jump in because they want to take their shot at me, or they'll say. Like I won't say any specific names. One person does this a lot, and then they'll just jump right in and go, well, so what did I wanted to say to you? As if it's like whatever your response is going to be to that doesn't matter. Like you just take it on the chin, and now it's my turn to take a shot, and that's incredibly frustrating because then eventually you just start interrupting.
Sorry. Thought that was
No, I'm saying
the
like
only.
eventually, as the person taking it, then they just feel like they have to start interrupting to defend themselves.
No, I totally see your point. I'm just saying in some instances it might be justified, but as you say, they're probably very rare. And I think I know that the individual who I don't think sort of I take aim at you as much as this individual does, and I don't think that his participation is always constructive. But regardless, I just wanted to make the point that this is something that is more of a judgment call, because it may be that sort of the third person does have some additional data that will help progress the exchange.
Right, but there's
Yeah, I
also
think
the
normally
difference between doing a 1v1 versus it being open. So if it's known to be open, now people don't generally call for 1v1s as often as they could because maybe it feels like spotlight's on them or they don't want to. Like if it's open right now and then SE and I start going back and forth, we may just expect that people will kind of assume we're in a 1v1. But I mean, it's difficult to be like, right when him and I start going back and forth for me to say, I want a 1v1. And then the mods can say, okay, it's 1v1 mode, because people are the way this is when people are coming in at different times of the day, they might only have 20 minutes and they want to do that. So I mean, maybe we could try to call 1v1s a bit more. It doesn't have to go on forever, but at least that way you would know that a third person won't jump in. Because I'm just saying that's a difference. If it's a 1v1 that a third person won't jump in, then that's one thing. But if it is open, like last night, it was like, was it a 1v1 between, Witsit and Tony? Yes, it pretty much was. But then, I felt like it kind of was. And so when other people jumped in, I kind of cringed because I was like, oh, well, I think they're kind of going back and forth right now. So maybe that's just a bit more of just setting the boundaries too, of just defining, is it open or is it a 1v1? Because what Tony's saying is true. Sometimes two people can be going back and forth and the third person jumps in and they actually bridge the gap and it's actually really productive.
and that's great, right? I think we all know the different times that we're talking about, right? Which is like that there's no intention of bridging their gap. There is no good faith. It's actually a complete disregard of whatever topic was being talked about. As if, okay, I arbitrarily determined that I'm now gonna say something else to this person. So I think I'll be honest, actually, in my opinion, this room self-regulates pretty well, actually. Like typically, from my experience, like it self-regulates pretty well because there's always some mods in here that kind of know, and then we typically all adopt the mentality of being pretty lenient, and then you have to be kind of egregious. And if you start crossing the line too much and like not showing basic good faith respect for like where you have to be parented, I think it's like a pretty relaxed parent approach. I think that's good for open style.
I will say that I will say that sort of what I saw yesterday, sort of there are some flat earthers and there are some globers who are just inveterate troublemakers, right? They're just there to sort of derail any discourse that's and what I saw was people on both sides getting muted if they were doing that, which I think is incredibly constructive. I think that you talk about you invoked the idea of censorship, and in some senses you are censoring somebody by just saying if they're interrupting too much, then they get muted. But it's necessary in order for the conversation to actually occur, right?
Yeah, it's not based on ideas. It's based on behavior, right? Like evenly applied behavioral constraints. Galley, how much time did it take you to put together your argument, though?
Oh yeah, I've had it. But you guys are doing like a knitting circle of feels or whatever.
Go ahead. I want to hear it. So.
All right. So the core argument is that there's a dilemma. Either the universe had a beginning or the universe is eternal. If the universe had a beginning, then time, space, and matter are contingent. They began, they change, they depend. What begins to exist cannot be self-existent. It requires a cause. That cause must be eternal, immutable, necessary, and not subject to time. Therefore, the only sufficient explanation for this is the non-contingent creator, eternal, necessary, outside of time, the source of all contingent reality. And then you have, if the universe is eternal, you never arrive at the present moment. If the past is actually infinite, an actual infinite regress, collapse, and incoherence. Therefore, the eternal universe position is self-refuting. Therefore, the universe is neither eternal nor self-caused. The only sufficient explanation is the non-contingent creator. And it's a destructive dilemma.
Okay, well, it's a false dichotomy. So what do you mean? And it's based on some linguistic ambiguity. What do you mean by eternal? Do you mean that it exists at all points in time, or do you mean that it exists for an infinite?
Okay, so when you say it's a false dichotomy, can you tell me what the two sides of the dichotomy are?
So you're claiming that the universe is either eternal or it isn't. Or it has a beginning. No,
Thank you, yes.
that is exactly what you said. Either the universe is eternal or it had a beginning. Those are the
Yes.
two prongs. Okay, so except that it is possible that there is a finite amount of time that has neither a beginning or an end. There are finite surfaces, finite curves that do not have a beginning or an end, right? And it is possible that time is one of those curves or one of those surfaces. You don't know that it isn't.
So you reject the claim the universe had a beginning or the universe is eternal?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any evidence to believe that the universe had a beginning or the universe is eternal is not true?
Yes. So space-time has curvature. Time has curvature. Right? Do you accept
Can you
that
define time?
Yes, time is what clocks measure.
Time is what? No, that's not the definition.
Measure. Okay, then you need to take that up with the physics community because that's the definition of time in physics.
There's no physics textbook that will say time is what clocks measure. Some of them will say...
That is absolutely untrue.
Okay, get me a physics...
I can get you one right now.
Sure, thanks, great. The definition of time is the measure of change, ordering events as before and after. It's not what clocks measure.
That is a definite... We are talking about physics here, are we not? We're talking about the physics of the universe. So it is important that we use physics terminology, the terminology from the discipline, not the colloquial definitions of objects, right?
Okay, so we just disagree of what time means. So my definition of time is it's the measure of change, ordering events as before and after. You don't think that's an adequate definition?
No. Because the entire the entire concepts of before and after are blown away by relativity, right? In the concept, so for one observer, two events may be simultaneous, whereas for another,
you asked about objective reality.
Is this a one-on-one or is this not?
Yeah, if you guys want it to be, don't interrupt either way, please.
Okay. Events can be simultaneous for one observer in where one occurs before the other for another observer, and then another observer sees them occur in a different order. So time itself is a relative concept. The idea that time is the ordering of events. Well, events aren't well ordered in time. They are well ordered if you're at a particular location. Time provides ordering, but when you're at different locations, it doesn't provide a well-ordered sequence of events. Events can occur in different orders depending on where you're standing.
Yeah, so Einstein, if you want to invoke relativity, because you made like 5 points there, I'm trying to keep it to like 1 point. Einstein showed that time is not a universal absolute container. Instead, time is relative to motion and gravity, according to Einstein. This means that time depends on the physical universe, like mass, energy, space, motion. That actually supports my definition. So you can't use relativity to refute my definition when relativity depends. Please don't interrupt. I let you go for a while. You made 5 points. Relativity confirms that time is not an independent thing. It's woven into the fabric of contingent reality, space-time. So if the universe had a beginning, Big Bang, singularity, whatever, space-time itself began, this means that time is not eternal. It's contingent.
So you're, again, we can't progress this conversation if you're not going to agree to use the physics definition of time. If you're not
just
going,
did.
if you want to have a conversation about physics and then reject the notion that we should use the terminology from physics, well, that's very convenient for you, but the exchange is at an end. If we can't agree that we should use physically meaningful terms and discuss physics, then the conversation is over, right?
Yeah. Okay, so you brought us into relativity, right? But if you want to talk, like your point now, if the audience doesn't know, this is an obfuscation tactic. So to say like we can't progress this conversation, stop.
That's a straw man. You just straw man my position.
Shush.
Don't do it.
How did I straw man? What did I misrepresent about what you said?
I need a clarification here.
What are you clarifying? What did I missay?
Well, for starters, is it not an ad hom to say that's an obfuscation?
It's not an ad hom. I'm saying your argumentation obfuscates the topic. An ad hom is an insult in place of an argument. So this is another obfuscation. What you are doing.
So an ad hom is not an insult instead of an argumentation. That's not an ad hom.
That's the definition of an ad hom.
Oh, moderate. That is the definition, man. Come on, bro.
An ad hominem fallacy is saying
this is an obfuscation. It's not an obfuscation. So I was about to address this point about how we can't progress the conversation if I don't use the definition of physics of time. You're squirming.
You can't. So if we don't agree, let
me know when I can finish making my argumentation. Not that
okay. I haven't been listening to
more arguments.
I haven't been listening, to be honest with Tony. Just let Galley go, and then I'll listen.
But you paused, right? I spoke when you paused. You seemed to pause. I apologize.
I'm waiting for you to yield the microphone and stop trying to make arguments so I can fit. You stopped my argument to say I strawmanned you. You couldn't demonstrate how. You said I ad hommed you. You couldn't demonstrate how. So may I finish my point now?
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
thank you.
If you're asking me for permission,
Tony, let him finish.
Please, whoever got to say no loses.
Okay, so physics gives us descriptions of how time behaves, right? Physics assumes time exists. Physics gives us a measurement of time, but doesn't explain what time is or why it exists. My argument isn't about how clocks tick. It's about why time ticks at all. Physics doesn't get rid of the need for a definition. It presupposes one. Einstein didn't redefine time into nothingness. He showed that time is relative to space, matter, and energy. That makes it more contingent, not less.
Yeah, but even so, we seem to be talking at cross purposes here. Your claim is that either time extends infinitely or it has a beginning point. I can point to surfaces that are not infinite and do not have beginning points, right?
That's not my claim. My claim is either. Don't ask me right and pause and then act like it's not an invite for me to speak.
Okay, apparently it's wrong for me to do it when you pause, but it's okay for you to do it when I pause.
Don't ask me right and then pause and then act like that isn't an invite for me to speak.
Right, so that was different. You asked him like a question as if you...
If I say right, all I want is a yes or no. I don't.
You didn't even let him do that, though.
Yeah, you said my claim was that time had a beginning or time is eternal. Not my claim. My claim is the universe had a beginning or the universe is eternal. And then I had two separate arguments about how if the universe had a beginning, da-da-da-da-da, if the universe is eternal, da-da-da-da-da. You haven't addressed either of those arguments. You just want to be pedantic and talk about time definition.
Constituent of the universe.
Sorry, what? I was in the middle of speaking.
Is time a constituent of the universe?
What do you mean by constituent?
Is space-time the continuum in which the universe exists?
What do you mean by continuum?
I don't feel the need to teach you mathematics. Either if you don't know don't. Why are you here? Like, so you're trying to make
Ad
an argument
hominem.
about no, that isn't an ad hominem.
Try
I
to
already
refrain from doing that
granted that I'm
anyway. I'm
fine with
trying to
the
mod.
physics definition. You tried to
Okay.
move to relativity. I proved that relativity also agrees with my definition.
No,
Can we
so
continue the debate?
okay. So do you concede that
No.
that space time? Okay. So
My answer is no, because you're not making an argument. Please make an argument.
Okay. Do you concede that? So I'm not interested in, and this seems to be a really significant problem. I'm interested in observable facts. Do you concede that space-time exhibits curvature? Yes or no?
Please make an argument.
It is pointless for me to go on from this before I know whether or not you agree.
Why are we talking about space-time now?
Because the curvature of space-time permits it to adopt geometries that have no beginning. It permits space-time to adopt a geometry that is boundaryless.
In this argument, I define time as the measure of change in motion. Without change, there's no before and after, so no time. That makes time contingent on the created order. Do you agree with that definition?
I agree with the definition of time. Let's work with your definition of time, as flawed as it is. But your syllogism from that it is contingent and must therefore have an initial point, I don't agree with. And I am explaining why, and you are simply not responding to what I'm saying.
You haven't asked me why is it contingent. And if you did, you could have just listened to my argument. I explained why the only sufficient explanation of if the universe had a beginning is the non-contingent creator, because time would be contingent on the beginner.
Yes, but we haven't established that the universe has a beginning.
I also made an argument for if the universe is eternal. I don't know if you remember that.
But that isn't the only other option. Right?
So there's what you're doing is you're violating the law of excluded middle.
I was in the middle of talking and you decided to come in over me.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was. There, you have presented two options, and they are not a complete delineation of the possible options. It is
if you violate the law of excluded middle, either the universe had a beginning or it didn't.
Okay, Galley, you can't
Is this
do
an
it.
interruption? Is he interrupting me right now?
Okay,
I don't know when he's done talking. He
right
does
now.
these extended pauses.
Is he interrupting me right now or
Tony,
not?
I'm trying to mod. Yes, he was interrupting you. Look, okay, Galley, we normally have conversations that are like real back and forth, free flowing, kind of fast paced. You're gonna have to be more patient in this scenario if you're wanting to do it. So just let Tony say his thing.
If it's possible, could I just ask, don't do the extended pauses in the middle of your speaking?
No, you cannot actually get me to think differently than I think. I will make an effort to try and speak more rapidly for your benefit, but I cannot guarantee that I can do it because I talk the way I talk. That's me. Now, returning to the point, you have said either the universe has a beginning or it is eternal, and you have asserted that those are the only two options. This is not an assertion that I accept. It is possible for the geometry of space-time to be finite in extent and not have a beginning.
Yeah, so what you're doing is you are throwing out logic because it is a true dilemma that either the universe is eternal or it's not, or rather, the universe had a beginning or it's always been. There was no beginning. This is a true dichotomy. If you want to throw out logic, you forfeit the debate.
No, sir, it is not a true dichotomy. And if you understood the geometry of space-time or any relativity whatsoever, you would know that what you are saying is simply not true. And you can claim that it is true and be happy with your success, but your argument holds no water with anyone who knows anything about relativity.
Yeah, so that's the classic, you don't understand relativity or the geometry of space-time. Okay, so if it's not a true dichotomy, this is what I asked you like 15 minutes ago, what is the third option to either the universe had a beginning or it doesn't, either the universe was eternal or it isn't? What is the third option?
And as I have explained to you a dozen times now, it is consider a circle. A circle is finite in area, but consider the circumference of a circle. It's finite in length, but it doesn't have a beginning or an end, right? So it is possible for surfaces and curves to adopt geometries that are finite in extent, but do not have beginnings and ends. Your claim that it must be one or the other is based entirely on a linear interpretation of time, and that is not accepted by relativists.
Yeah, so the circle's circumference is spatial, it's not temporal. That's a geometric shape. That's not a sequence of events. You don't traverse a circle one point at a time unless you add motion, and motion requires time. So that analogy, like a circle has no beginning or end, so why can't time be like that? That's so easy to dismantle. This analogy confuses space with time. A circle doesn't have a beginning because it isn't an ordered sequence of events. But time is ordered, earlier and later. So the analogy doesn't work. It's just jargon.
No, sir. No, sir. You're just rejecting relativity as a whole. Time is perfectly capable of having a geometry. That's what relativity is all about, and indeed what Einstein demonstrated. Your claim that time is just linear is false. And let's consider the simplest example of a circular time. Consider a universe that consider a universe. It's back to its initial points, and then it runs through again. So we have had this conversation millions of times before. We'll have it millions of times again because we're doomed. We're stuck on this circular time, and we're going to go through it forever and ever. Right? Time doesn't have a beginning, time doesn't have an end, but time is finite in extent. That is one possible geometry. I'm not saying that it's cosmologically plausible, but it is an example of a geometry that offers a third option to your claimed true dilemma. It is not a true dilemma, and it is logically fallacious to assert that it is.
Does relativity say space-time is eternal, or that it began with the universe?
Relativity makes no claim either way.
Relativity makes no claim either way?
Relativity does not claim that time began.
And why'd you invoke it?
Your question was, does relativity say that time began with the universe? That relativity does not say that time or the universe have a beginning.
I said, no, my question was, does relativity say space-time is eternal or that it began with the universe? Relativity describes how space-time behaves once it exists. It doesn't explain why space-time exists or why there is something rather than nothing. Geometry of space-time is still contingent. It depends on there being space-time at all. So if you want to say that time or the universe is not eternal, but space-time is, that's absurd. If you want to say that space-time is not eternal, it had a beginning, that's absurd. Either way, you've either thrown out logic or you're trying to operate in a middle ground between a true dilemma. There's no middle ground.
You're trying to apply formal logic to a subject that you clearly don't understand. Yes, relativity doesn't say anything about the universe having a beginning. That's not relativity's job. That's cosmology's job. But cosmology does use relativistic concepts. the process by which the observable universe came to be the observable universe is something that we don't presently understand. But your claim that it must have a beginning is not true. There are plenty of cosmological models, for instance, the Hawking-Hartle boundaryless universe hypothesis, that reject your assumption. And
what assumption?
And if you want to assert that I am abandoning logic, that I am abandoning reason, take it up with the scientific literature dedicated to this topic, where the subject matter experts disagree with you.
What assumption?
What assumption of what?
You said this refutes or disproves my assumption. What assumption?
The assumption that either the universe has a beginning or it is eternal. And you
either it has a beginning or it doesn't.
The term eternal in and of itself is meaningless. You must clarify, do you mean the time is infinite in duration, or do you mean that it exists at all points in time? You have to be very careful with how you use words in this context. As has been pointed out, you can get yourselves in all sorts of trouble by being sloppy with your terminology. Please refrain from using the word eternal and clarify which one you mean. Do you mean that it existed at all points in time, or do you mean that time is infinite in extent?
Either the universe has a beginning or it doesn't. Either it is eternal or it isn't.
That is not true.
Prove it.
Time can be finite. Time can be finite in extent. I have just provided an example of time being finite in extent, but not eternal.
Your example shows that time is both finite and infinite, which violates the law of identity. Your circle example is absurd.
No, sir. The surface of a sphere doesn't. The surface of a sphere or the circumference of a circle doesn't have a beginning or an end, but it is finite. Right? You can only get so far from any point on the surface. You can't get infinite distance from any point on the surface. It is finite, but it is endless.
So where's the beginning on the surface of a sphere or a circle?
There is no beginning on the surface of a sphere or the circumference of a circle. You can pick an arbitrary point and you can label it, but there is no beginning. You've just labeled something and you've called it a beginning, but there is actually time before that. There is no point in time at which there wasn't time previously.
Okay, you understand that is saying that the universe is eternal, right? You are smuggling in that the universe is eternal by saying that, stop. We are smuggling in that time is eternal when you say that there is a time before that time. You're doing what? This is an infinite regress. You are abandoning logic.
No, I am at no point in this model do I require infinite distance from any point in the space. So I am not doing infinite regress. Your inability to understand my point is not a straw man. And so your claim that no, and ad hoc.
Tony, let's give him a chance. What was the straw man? Do you remember? He called it.
Oh, I don't even remember. He said something about the geometry. I was talking about he was invoking a time before the time, which is an infinite regress. So if he says there's always a time before the time, that's saying that it is eternal.
No.
So he didn't address that. He said something about the geometry. It has nothing to do with what I said.
There you go, Tony. We addressed what he said.
So this is just a refusal to concede that and this conversation has quickly become pointless. You don't.
It's ironically very circular. Yeah.
Yes, it is ironically very circular. I keep on making the point that there are possible geometries of space-time that don't have a beginning, and you just keep asserting, no, that isn't true.
That's because that's a category error.
I understand the arguments that you're trying to use. I am unpersuaded by them, as is the entirety of the cosmological scientific community.
Let me see if I can progress
None of the
this here.
people
So,
none of the subject matter experts in this will agree with you or will accept your reasoning. So when you claim this as though it is an ironclad logical certainty, people with a mastery of the subject and a mastery of logic disagree with you violently.
Your appeal to credentials do not matter to me. Your invoking of geometry is irrelevant. A circle circumference is spatial. It's not temporal. It's a geometric shape. It's not a sequence of events. You don't traverse a circle one point at a time unless you add motion, and motion requires time. That analogy confuses space with time. A circle doesn't have a beginning because it isn't an ordered sequence of events, but time is ordered earlier and later. So the analogy does not work.
You assert, and I reject your assertion.
can you still man why he said it was wrong?
I can still man why he said it wrong is because I can't apply geometry, a spatial concept, to time, which is in itself a simple rejection of relativity. And he said that time is the unfolding of events in order. They must have a cardinal order. There must be a before and there must be an after. But again, this leaves out a broad class of geometries for time, which he seems to just be rejecting the concept that time has geometry.
Can you wait? I think he also, to progress from there though, right? I think he also addressed the geometry. Like, so did you hear his argument?
He just said time doesn't have geometry, which
Well,
is
he
just a
also,
lie.
yeah, so I hear that. That's the part that keeps going back and forth 1,000 times. That's why I'm interjecting. He did address the idea of time being the geometry of a circle.
But I have explained how it could. I have given an example of a circular universe, right?
That's invoking that the universe would be eternal.
No, it isn't.
Okay, where's the
So
beginning?
let me say this still, man. Then maybe okay, because I think Galley's making quite a few points actually that I feel like that it's not all getting addressed or whatever. So I think what he's saying to you is the reason the analogy doesn't hold is because you'd have to pick a particular point on that circle, and then in order to actually traverse that circle, despite what he's saying is like a spatial and temporal conflation, like in addition to that, if he yielded the geometry, any point on that circle to actually traverse it requires adding motion, which requires time.
So let's imagine a coordinate axis on which there is time, right? We're measuring time, we're progressing along it. So even under the assumption that time is flat and linear, we are moving through time, right? And to claim that motion requires time is a circular argument. Yes, that's what we're measuring. The measurement of time requires time. The observation of time, the measurement of time requires time. That's, and I don't understand your objection to that.
That's a conflation of two things. You're conflating the thing itself and the measurement of the thing. So you're saying it's eternal, right?
No, I'm not saying.
Okay, where's the beginning?
It does, and this is again, you're just asserting that your dilemma is this is a true dichotomy. It isn't a true dichotomy.
Either it had a beginning or it didn't, brother.
I'm still talking. You don't need a beginning to not be eternal.
I think your mic's cutting out.
Well, I rebooted my router. That's about as much as.
Let me try one more time. Say it's a circle. Okay. I guess what he's saying is like, okay, either the circle either always there or it wasn't always there. Like either way, it doesn't escape the problem.
Yes, it does. So the issue is has there been an infinite amount of time that the universe has existed? No. There's a finite distance from any point there is a finite distance from any 2 points that you arbitrarily choose. Let's label 1A. There is a finite amount of time between those points, right?
Okay, so you agree that's finite, not eternal.
There is not an infinite amount of time between, there's no infinity here. You can keep on going around and around the circle, but which is again why I have objected explicitly to your use of the term eternal, because you keep on using it to say it must be an infinite. Eternal means an infinite amount of times. No, more meaningfully, eternal means at every point in time.
Yeah, which invokes it being eternal, but either it has a beginning or it doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't have a beginning, but that doesn't make it eternal.
If it doesn't have a beginning, it always was.
No.
Yes.
Well, you assert that. Again, all I can say is that I and the entirety of the scientific community reject your assertion.
Okay, that's not true.
Frankly,
can I say something?
Quite frankly, this is the end of the conversation. We've been here multiple times. I'm not going to change his mind. He's not going to change mine.
Right. Let me say this real fast. Okay. So first of all, Tony, I think you're being incredibly accurate when you say that like it's against the whole community. This very fringe idea of time being a circle, it's like typically rejected because we understand the curvature of space-time in your paradigm is relative to mass and it isn't a circle. But like throwing that aside, right, where you guys never really got beyond the first step of it. So say that we've all heard both. Basically the audience can pick who they agree with there, right? Like is Galley presenting a true dichotomy, or you're claiming it's not a true dichotomy? Okay, we've heard that 1,000 times, 1,000 ways. Could you then address Galley's next points, assuming the dichotomy, like in like good faith? So say if that dichotomy is true, that it either had a beginning or didn't have a beginning, or there was eternal or it had a beginning, that blank blank blank. His next arguments about those two possibilities.
Yes. There is no requirement that even if this were a true dichotomy, there is no requirement that the process by which time initiated was an entity, much less any form of divinity. So the entire concept here is incoherent, because that entity would have to exist in a time continuum in order to make the decision to create the universe and then do so. So if you're saying that it's incoherent for a physical process to do that, it is exactly as incoherent to claim that a divinity did that.
I never invoked the word divinity.
Well, creator. So
if it has no beginning, let me respond, because you've said a few things. If it has no beginning, then it is past infinite, which collapses into incoherence. You would never be able to reach today. If it is not eternal, then it exists for only some time. It must have a beginning. Anything outside these options either contradicts itself or it's incoherent. Something either exists for a finite time or an infinite time. Anything else is logically incoherent. It's like saying a shape is neither a circle, nor a square, nor any shape at all.
Well, you guys are going to have the same argument again now, right? I thought I'd try to progress this. Wait, time out. I'm trying to progress it beyond that part, okay? The contention of the dichotomy you presented. You then made an argument, if it is eternal, da-da-da-da. If it's not, if it had a beginning, da-da-da-da. And then I talked Tony into entertaining that in good faith as if that was a true dichotomy, because we heard the denial of the dichotomy back and forth for I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. It was very, very redundant. So, Gal, you presented two arguments. If you choose this option, then da 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 da. you built out a syllogism for there being a creator in both in the scenarios, right?
Yeah, I don't grant anything outside of like. I mean, I don't grant any contradiction, so I'm not gonna debate as if we're in Narnia. You know, like it's a contradiction.
Okay, well, okay. So how about this? Gally, will you repeat the beginning?
I can only say that Galley has failed to impress me as somebody I should be spending time talking to.
Okay. We don't need stuff like that. We don't need stuff like
he-
that, dude. We don't need stuff like
Oh
that. Gally,
no,
can-
I'm just going to leave now. And you can talk to Galley about his ideas. All I can say is I don't find his argument persuasive. I don't know any serious scientist who will find this argument persuasive. And he's content.
Okay, if you're gonna leave, you can't just do a bunch of ad hominem attacks before you leave, then leave the chat without letting the other guys.
He is very welcome. He is very welcome. I was in the middle of talking. He is very welcome to persist in his belief. I'm not telling him not to. All I'm saying is that I don't find it persuasive. I don't find his logic well formed. I don't find his characterization of my argument reasonable. And Whitsett, actually, you strawmanned me as well when you said I gave a very simplistic example of a possible geometry that does not have a beginning. And you well know that there are and you said, well, that one's been disproven. Yes, but you well know that there are other geometries the universe have a beginning, other than the geometry I suggested. So,
well, just to clarify, Tony, I didn't say it was disproven. I just said like you portrayed it as though all of the scientists would agree, and that's not true at all. Like a lot of people think there was a beginning. I guess what I was hoping to do here was get Galley to just say his syllogism of if there was a beginning, explain the contingency of a creator, so that you could, from my understanding, you still disagree with that, correct?
Yes, because if you're allowing that there is some let's consider things from the creator's point of view. The creator must have a time continuum. From the creator's perspective, there's a time when they decided to create the universe, and then there's the universe. So from the creator's universe,
they don't have to be linear though. The creator can rewind us.
Wait, just let him say his thing. Like, please let him say his thing. And Galley, if you want to, you can lay out or clarify your syllogism as to why you say if there was a beginning and necessitates a creator, and you guys can talk about that or not. My point is that I know Tony still would disagree with that, which is a way to actually progress the conversation.
Okay, and so if you're permitting that there is some creator timeline in which the creator can make this decision and then enact it, then there must be a physical process by which that can occur, right? There must be time in some other way than we presently understand it and experience it, in which the creator exists, or in which some physical process is undertaken. So either way, you are invoking time in some other way than we understand it, and saying that's
my definition of time.
So, okay, so I don't see that you've gotten to a creator.
I mean, if you change the definition of time in order to refute the argument, that's a straw man.
Okay,
so
Tom, can you do me a favor and repeat your argument? Can you do me a favor then and repeat your argument about if there was a beginning, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if the universe had a beginning, then time, space, and matter are contingent. They began, they change, they depend. What begins to exist cannot be self-existent. It requires a cause. That cause must be eternal, immutable, necessary, and not subject to time. Therefore, the only sufficient explanation is the non-contingent creator, which is eternal, necessary, outside of time, which would be the source of all contingent reality. And I'll explain my definition of time in case that gets confused again. It is it's change in motion over my exact definition for you guys. Measure of change or motion. I would use that definition.
Okay, so when you said that God is eternal, you're saying that he has existed for an infinite amount of time.
No.
We're not.
Okay,
Look,
what do you mean by the statement God is eternal?
Did I say
the
that?
universe is not eternal, and most
Wait,
scientists
Taylor,
look at
Taylor, please,
that. For
Taylor,
example,
please let
I've
them
been
have
waiting.
this part.
I can say one
I
sentence. Can I?
know, I know, which is why we finally got them
You
to get to the.
lied. Most physicists do not say the universe is eternal. That's a lie. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
He didn't say that. Okay. Well, Galley, go back and
The
forth with him on this. At
cause
least it could be
must be
fruitful.
eternal because these things are contingent, and they would have to be contingent on something that isn't contingent. Because what begins to exist cannot be self-existent. It requires a cause.
So, but why does that cause have to be an agent? Why does that cause have to be an entity?
I just said non-contingent creator. I mean, it could be a non-contingent.
So that could be a physical process, a non-contingent physical process.
I mean, we could get into why it's a creator, but I would want you to
Since that's
logic.
the argument you're trying to make, you might want to
interrupting me. Have some forbearance. We could talk about why it has to be a creator, like a personal creator, but you'd have to concede that logic is immutable and universal, whereas it seems like you use logic and try to change what it means, but there's not really a debate about logic.
So the last couple of sentences were an unsubstantiated ad hom. I've never said that the laws of logic aren't universal. What I've said is that there are people who don't use the law of excluded middle when constructing mathematical proofs because they don't think that it is sufficiently rigorous. The other point that I would make. The other point that I would make in responding to Taylor, I never said the universe was eternal. So I don't understand why she's so upset about that. And the third thing is, you don't get to say, okay, there's well, I don't see, based on the argument so far, why you claim that God can operate outside of time, but physical processes can't operate outside of time, as we understand it.
See, the thing is, I can't have a debate. Look, you've made like 8 points. Let someone else speak. Don't make like 20 points, all right? So I can't have a debate with someone who rejects the laws of logic. So if you reject the law of logic, please don't interrupt.
I didn't reject the laws of logic.
Please don't. I'm about to show you how you did. Please don't interrupt. So I can't have a debate with someone who says something can either not begin and begin at the same time, or it can begin and not begin at the same time. You can't make that case. So something either exists for a finite time, in other words, it had a beginning, or it exists infinitely backwards, which means it's eternal in the past. There's literally no other logical option. If it doesn't have a beginning, there's an infinite past. If it doesn't exist infinitely, then it has a finite past. It must have a beginning. To say there's a third option is ridiculous. The dichotomy isn't false. Anything that exists either began or always as it has existed. Claiming a third option is just inventing nonsense.
Okay, Whitsett, can you explain to this person that the Hawking-Hartle model is a valid cosmological model, and his rejection of it as nonsense is just an assertion? He can
still debated.
Well, okay, then we're back to the same fucking argument that you've tried valiantly to get us past. I don't accept Galley's position. Neither do any cosmologists.
Just to clarify, that wasn't me that interjected. Give me some space here. Give me some space here. First of all, that wasn't me that interjected, Tony. So yes, I have tried to get past it. That wasn't me that interjected that. I would disagree with you though, right? Like I don't agree that it's a valid cosmological thing. So like You're asking me to do something I can't do. So I could say to Galley, "Hey man, I know you sat here for hours and heard him explain that yesterday." Galley's well aware of it, right? I mean, it's like he's just saying that he's saying it's a true dichotomy logically. And what you're saying, and that's why you guys are basically talking about two different things, is you're saying, no, within this materialistic assumption of us already being here, I can conceptualize of time as spatial, and there are spatial expressions that can be finite but have no beginning. And he's saying, okay, well, that's not actually applying logic properly, though.
That's a violation of the law of non-contradiction, law of identity.
Okay, I get to respond. So the argument.
Wait, you just made a point and asked Austin to interject, and then you get to respond.
So Austin has said that he's not going to do what I asked. So now I.
So then I get to respond.
So no, I get to make my point since what I asked Austin to do, he won't do. Okay, the Hartle-Hawking model is in the scientific literature. It has not been falsified. It has not been rejected by the scientific community. It remains a valid cosmological model. To claim that it is incoherent or logically unsound would require that you publish your argument and have it pass peer review. Because Hawking and Hartle have published their model, did get it past peer review, which is a sign that the logic is not incoherent. It is a sign from subject matter experts that their claims are not instantly falsifiable, and if you claim otherwise, you must demonstrate it in the literature.
Wrong. So anyway, the Hartle-Hawking model is a mathematical thing. It doesn't explain why space-time and matter exist at all. It's still contingent. So even with no boundary time, the universe is contingent. Something outside of it must account for its existence. So a model of the universe inside mathematics doesn't remove the need for non-contingent reality to ground contingent reality. So it's illogical. No. The universe, even in that model, exists, changes, and depends on physical laws. Contingent realities cannot exist necessarily by themselves. They require a non-contingent cause.
Again, we reject your. We can reject your characterization.
What do you mean? Wait, can you steel man what I just said? Steel man what I just said.
Let's take the high. Let's take.
I don't want you to refute a straw man. Please steel man what I just said.
No, actually. I get to say what I'm saying. Then you forfeit. And then you can if I have mischaracterized what you're saying, you can refute it. But you don't get to dictate to me how this conversation goes. Right?
Yes, I do. You're not going to refute a non-argument that I didn't make or refute a steel man.
I'm going to ask the moderator to intervene.
All right, I'm trying to. This is laborious. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I know you're not gonna like this. You're gonna think I'm biased. I have an inclination not to do it just because you're gonna think that. I do think it would be beneficial to everyone if you could just even briefly kind of state what he just said, and then like go on to debunk it if you think you can, right? Like because it has become very circular, and for sure people have talked past each other for most of the convo. That's my opinion, right? So.
Okay, so. Be prepared because this is the standard that I'm going to hold him to. What he said is that even if there is boundaryless time, it is contingent on something outside of itself. This is not sound. For instance, we could have two universes, one of ours that exists for a finite amount of time, and its end creates another universe that exists for a finite amount of time, and its end recreates our universe. So on and so forth. The claim that just because it's something that is outside the universe, it must be a creator, and it must be and that everything is contingent on something outside itself. This is not accepted by the scientific community. The entire point of tangent spaces is to demonstrate that you don't need anything outside the universe for the universe to expand. The entire formulation of relativity removes apparently common sense requirements. And you're arguing from common sense. From common sense, your argument is ironclad. From common sense, this argument is great. But all I'm saying is that that there are enormous complexities involved in what is being considered here, and the potential models for the generation of or the development of an observable universe. And there are lots of stuff that we don't know.
All right, great. So despite you failing to steelman, I will repeat the argument and I will refute what you just said. So my argument was that the Hawking model still treats the time and universe mathematically, right? It's metaphysically, existence itself is not a mathematical abstraction. You can't escape the fact that contingent realities need a necessary foundation, right? So in actually infinite past or a past no grounding, it's impossible to traverse an incoherent. You can't reach the present from an infinite regress. So then to address we could have two universes, one outside of ours that exists for a finite amount of time, and another one that exists for a finite amount of time, and that creates our universe. Each universe is still contingent. You're kicking the can down the road. Both would exist for a finite time and depend on something else. A contingent universe cannot account nor explain its own existence. So linking one contingent universe to another, it doesn't eliminate the need for a necessary non-contingent source. It just pushes the problem back. You're stacking contingencies. A contingent universe cannot create itself. Another contingent universe can't do that, and it cannot explain why the first exists. Something necessary must ground them both.
No, I reject your assertion.
Okay, please repeat back what you're rejecting.
We're just back to the same. We're just back to the same rejection. And I didn't strawman your argument. You said that you have claimed that that even in the Hartle-Hawking model, it is contingent and it requires some external force to kick it off. That's what I said. You said. So I don't understand. I'm obviously missing some subtlety because you think that it isn't what you said. That you said something more profound than that. Well, it was lost on me. So
okay, you missed 2/3
of it. I reject your assertion. I'm still.
What assertion?
Talking. I reject your assertion that it must be infinite in time. I reject that concept.
Okay, so
you're
saying that it could exist without a beginning,
if you allow that there is a creator who has their own timeline which creates the universe, then you must allow the same thing for physical processes. You must allow time to exist in some other form than we currently experience it in order for your creator to operate in it. If you permit that, then you permit time in some other form than we experience it, in which physical processes can occur.
Wrong.
Why?
Because I defined time. You try to change the definition in the middle of the debate repeatedly.
So time. So what you're saying is that the time that we experience now is exactly the same as the time that God experiences.
No.
Okay. So you
Can
are.
repeat about if the universe had a beginning? I've repeated it 3 times. Can you repeat it back to me, please?
If the universe had a beginning, then something must have caused the universe to begin. Either that thing itself is finite and was caused to exist by something else, and that invites infinite regress, which you reject as nonsensical. You then say that the only option to that is that at some point in causality there is some.
Wait, the last thing you said is wrong, and whatever you're saying right now is wrong. You got it right up until that point.
Okay, what was wrong?
Okay, so you got it right until the what begins to exist cannot be self-existent. It requires a cause. Everything else after that was wrong.
That doesn't help me.
Well, you said that I said that thing was either finite or not. I didn't say that. I said that cause must be eternal, immutable, necessary, and not subject to time.
How? Okay. How do you know?
How do I know? Because time, if it is
that God created. So,
Sorry, you
allow
cut
me
out.
to
Are you
finish speaking. Allow
You
me
cut
to
out.
finish
You cut out.
speaking,
You
so that I
you
can.
cut out.
Dude, shut up! You
clarify.
cut out, so it
Yeah,
sounded like
yeah.
you were
Okay,
done
so-
after you said, "How do you know that?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there isn't. What if God created a universe before ours, and then and then its termination involved a rotation into our timeline and the creation of our universe? How do you exclude that possibility?
Still a beginning.
He already answered that, dude. He
Okay,
already
yes.
answered that.
So all I said was that there may be a finite duration universe before ours, and you're saying I'm wrong. All I am doing is clarifying your position to be more generally true, right?
No, you're not clarifying it. You're shrouding it in vague absurdity.
You're claiming that at some point, you're not necessarily claiming that this is the first universe that existed, because logically it is possible that some other universe was created and its demise created out, and it in turn
that other universe would still fall into the dilemma.
Okay.
Yeah, let me clarify here.
Yes,
Let me clarify.
I'm not saying it doesn't. Will you shut up while I finish my point? At some
yes,
point,
you are. You are saying it doesn't. That's your whole argument.
At some
wait. Everybody
point,
chill. Everybody chill. Tony, let me help here just to clarify. You just said, and you said that
I don't need help. I need to finish my statement. At some point,
oh, you need to calm the fuck down.
Okay, thanks for your input, Rob. At some point in this chain, there must be a cause that does not have a cause, that is non-contingent, to use your terminology. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cause is outside of time.
You broke up. You're gonna have to repeat it.
You're claiming that cause must be outside of time.
That cause would be the cause of time, so it would have to be, right?
So for that cause, is there a point? Is there a point where time doesn't exist, and then a point where time does exist?
That is a loaded question, because you're asking, is there a point in time when time doesn't exist? That's ridiculous.
Okay,
Category error.
What does it mean? What does it mean? I'm asking you to clarify your claim that this thing exists outside of time, because it seems like there are events in order for this entity. By your definition, time must exist for this entity.
No.
Why?
But I will prove that God is not subject to time, or what I'm calling the non-contingent creator. So if the non-contingent
that isn't the question that isn't the question on the table, though.
That is the question that you asked.
That is the question, Tony. You just asked him if he was subject to time.
The question is, do events unfold in order for God?
No,
so
you're
is he
changing the
subject
question.
to time?
You asked if God is subject to time, and I was going to address it. And I don't know why you're so bullheaded and like you don't have the ability to comprehend the words that I'm speaking. But I was going to address your question, is God subject to time? Or did you forget that you asked that?
That's not how I phrased it. What I asked...
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't. What I asked
is exactly how you phrased it, Tony.
Bro, that doesn't help.
Hang on. Do not falsely summarize what I said and then say that that's what I said, because that is the definition of a straw man. What I asked was, does God experience events in sequence?
That's not
I'm going to roll back the tape and see if you asked me, is God subject to time? And if you did, do you concede the argument?
No.
Okay,
Answer
this
the
is a
question.
massive roadblock you're putting in. Now it's your word versus mine. We need to go back.
Answer the question. Does God experience events in sequence?
You won't answer his questions.
Yeah, if he orders that sequence.
Wait up. Lucia,
Galley's in the
Galley.
process of going back.
I know, but I'm trying to
So
say, like, well, Rob has been just interjecting. That's actually adds fuel to the fire because now Tony's going to scream at you, and so that doesn't help us.
did I scream at him?
You
Sort
were
of. I mean,
screaming.
you've been.
That's why I
I'll
got
compliment.
involved.
I'll
Sorry.
compliment you. You've been very tame, relatively speaking.
Okay. Relatively speaking. Thank you for that faint praise. But Galley has been asked a question, and it is germane to the debate. Does God experience events in sequence? If so, according to Galley's definition of time, God is in time. Is this case? What is the flaw with my argument?
You broke up at the very end. You said God is. You sound like you maybe were going to say in time. You broke up right at the
Yes.
word in.
Yeah. God is in. If God, by using Galley's definition of time, which is a sequence of events, progressing through a sequence of events, does God experience progression through a sequence of events?
Not his definition of time.
Yes. So now you're saying that God is in time.
Well, I don't want to speak. I don't think we want to speak for Galley. And to be fair, Galley did invoke before and after, right? So. I mean,
Yeah. So you said, do events unfold in order for God? And obviously, when I'm talking about the non-contingent creator who created time, which is the measure of change, the ordering events is before and after, right? Obviously, that would mean that God is not subject to time. And obviously, you were asking if God is subject to time.
I agree that that's what he was basically asking you. He didn't say those exact words, but that's the meat of it. He's repeated, does he experience events in sequence? Thus, with the clarification, is he in time? So clearly he is asking you, does he experience events in sequence, i.e., is he subject to time? That's his example he gave you.
Okay.
Oh, well, it's a non sequitur because each universe that you've brought up is contingent. It exists for a finite time and depends on something else. Everything that's finite it can't account for itself. It can't explain its own existence.
That isn't a response to my question. My question was, it's a very specific question. Does God experience events in sequence?
Category error.
Does God? Why?
I already explained it, and you said that doesn't answer my question. I'm not going to repeat myself.
You haven't explained it. Okay,
Okay, what did I say before you said that doesn't answer my question? Then what did I say?
Hold it there. Witsit, can you explain Galley's answer to my question? So let me rephrase my question. You heard Galley say it. My question again is, does God experience events in sequence? Can you tell me what Galley's answer to that was?
Honestly, I don't remember. Like, I know he said originally it was non sequitur. He said category error. He at one point said that the contingency is what I don't remember exactly how he phrased what he said.
Okay,
it's becoming very laborious to me because I'm like doing
anybody in the chat? Does anybody else in the chat?
I could repeat it if you want.
Anybody else in the chat feel that they can steal man? Galley's.
I can repeat it if you want. Why do you make everything so laborious and tedious? Why do you do that?
Welcome to Tony.
You're claiming something. I'm claiming that you're claiming that you answered my question. You're saying, and I'm claiming you didn't. Now,
I know that you struggle with definitions and logic. You struggle with definitions and logic, but by definition, a non-contingent creator does not begin, change, or depend on anything else. It's absurd to ask If a non-contingent creator is, like, if it's contingent on something, that's like asking if something flawed is flawless, or if something flawless is flawed. It's ridiculous.
All you're doing is trying to define your way out of it by saying God isn't contingent, but refusing to answer the questions, does God experience events in sequence? Because if he does, then he is in time.
Non sequitur category error. I already answered it. You just don't understand the answer.
You can assert that all you want.
Okay, what was my answer, Tony?
It's evident.
Your answer was that you have defined God as non-contingent, therefore God by definition cannot be subject to time. That is not a response to my question.
I have defined God as non-contingent. I have defined time as contingent. Please shut up. Shut up. I'm going to respond now. I have defined God as non-contingent. I have defined time as contingent. To say that a non-contingent thing, it can be dependent or subject to a contingent thing, is absurd.
You defined time as a sequence of the passage of a sequence of events changing, right? That's how you defined time. So
are you asking me right, or are you going to keep yapping? Yeah, I figured you were going to keep yapping.
If God experiences events in sequence, then God is in time. So what you have constructed, yes, this is a contradiction to your definition of a God. This is a reductio ad absurdum of your argument.
No, it's just you. It's you bad faith understanding what I mean when I define terms, and you trying to equivocate and change the definition of terms in real time.
Define time.
Measure of change, ordering events as before and after.
Okay. Does God experience events in order?
God would be the start of the change before the ordering of events and after. He started the ordering of events before and after.
This is a yes or no question. And did he do that before the universe existed, or before time as we currently understand it started to exist?
He started the events, the ordering of them before and after.
None of this is. I asked a very specific question. I asked.
It's a loaded question.
Did he do so? Yes, but it's only loaded because it threatens to show the inherent.
No, it's loaded with an implicit premise that a non-contingent creator is contingent. This is really boring.
Getting
yes,
ridiculous.
You didn't make claims on God. You make claims on the universe.
Internal contradiction.
Okay, look, okay.
No, you're the one who's contradiction.
Let me help out here. Actually, you're making a conflation between experience and limitation, and he's saying he was non-contingent, which means even if he could experience them in order, doesn't necessarily mean he's limited to only experiencing events in order, because he's not contingent upon time itself.
Okay, but
so hard to listen.
Did he experience?
I understood that, Tony. How about you?
Did he experience? Thanks for your input, Rob. Valuable as always. Did he experience events in order before the universe existed, before time as we currently understand it existed?
Right, you're saying, did a time exist before time existed? That's why it's a retarded question. The question is retarded.
It is not a retarded question. It is again exposing the internal contradictions in your formulation. You have formulated an internally contradictory notion that this creator is capable of acting and capable of progressing from states where something doesn't exist to where it does. That requires that time exists in some form. So you are logically requiring that time can exist before the universe in some form. Now, you can do that with a creator. You can do that with a creator, or you can do it with physical processes.
So to ask if the non-contingent creator is subject to time, dude, you just yap on and on. You make like 50 points.
Yeah, Tony, I gotta be honest. Like, I think we both don't know that sometimes you conclude your point and then you think of another point you want to tag on. But to be fair, if that
Yeah.
happens, you got to just let them respond first.
Okay.
Because it becomes a
Because
chaos.
ask if the non-contingent creator is subject to time assumes the non-contingent can be analyzed as if it were a contingent thing. It's loaded and it's ridiculous. It's a contradiction. Time is part of creation. It's the contingent order of change. The non-contingent creator is the ground of contingent reality, not part of it. It's a loaded question that sneaks in an assumption that biases the answer. So the assumption is time already exists independently, and now we're asking whether the creator is inside of it. But that begs the question, since time itself is contingent and depends on the creator. It's like saying, have you stopped being inside the matrix? It assumes what it needs to prove. That question assumes the creator is part of the contingent reality, but time itself is part of creation. So the creator is not subject to time. The creator made it. So it's like asking if a painter is trapped in his painting.
No, sir, it's not at all.
Thank you,
It's not at all analogous in that. As Rob, again, you're as valuable. How
I
could we
waited till
live
he was
without you?
done, and I thanked him. Fuck you, Tony.
Yeah, but Rob, do me a favor, please. Just stop there. Imagine if someone in here was supporting Tony, and every time he said something, he like taunted Galley. Right. So let's just try to avoid that, please.
All right, I'll stop taunting Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah, taunt me instead. I'm on.
Tell you what you said. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm responding to what you said. You are trying again. You are trying again to get around the internal contradiction that, from God's perspective, he decided he was in a situation where there was no universe. He decided to make a universe, and then he made it. This is a sequence of events. You can say that by definition, because you have defined God as non-contingent, therefore he can't be inside time. By your own definition of time, God was just in time in some form. It may be in a form that we don't recognize as time. It may be in a form that different from the way we experience time presently, but there was some sequence of events that permitted God to take an action. If there was no time in which he could do that, he wouldn't be able to do it. There would be no sequence of events. So all I'm saying is that you've logically, your concept seems to me logically self-contradictory. You disagree with me. Fine. Neither of us is going to shift on this. We have reached the point where you've just defined.
Okay, so I get to respond without you making like a bunch of statements about me, right? Because I don't want you to make a bunch of statements about me before I can respond to the argument you just laid out, right?
Yeah.
No. What I'm explaining
well, just don't comment on him personally,
again,
Tony. Do not comment on him personally.
Just can I just respond to his argument?
Yeah, go.
I did. And now I'm explaining.
No, can I respond to your argument before you make statements about me?
We're not going to make any progress because he's just going to stick to his definitions. And this again.
Can I respond to the argument you made?
Tony, bro, you just made a pretty lengthy. Tony, you made a pretty lengthy argument. Let him respond to it, man.
So before time is a contradiction. Without time, there's no before to speak of. Events require time. The non-contingent creator is timeless. Only with creation does before-after exist. So asking if the creator experienced events before time is like asking what day it was before days existed. Do you think before time makes sense? Can you give me one example of a before that isn't temporal? You don't have an answer. You're stuck in the very category you just denied. So if you say like, God thought and decided to create the universe, therefore he exists in time because those are events. Thinking and decided are temporal processes for contingent beings. They unfold in sequence before and after. The non-contingent creator, by definition of non-contingent, is timeless and immutable. Attributing temporal processes to a timeless being is like saying the painter moved before he painted the painting, but the painting doesn't exist yet. You're misapplying temporal categories. For a timeless creator, thinking and deciding would be eternal truths or intentions. They're not sequential mental events. So in other words, the act of creation is timelessly willed, not a decision that occurs at one moment before another. So the creator doesn't think in time, the intention to create exists eternally, and the temporal sequence begins only with the creation itself. This is all by definition, by the way. So if you're going to debate the definitions, debate the definitions. Don't debate my usage of them.
All right, so he left like a while ago, but when he was asking, does God like experience time? I guess you could have just said no.
It's it'd be a category error. Yeah, it's like saying like, does a non-dependent or non-contingent individual experience a contingent property? It's like saying, what's the flaw in the flawless individual, right? So it's like a category. Doesn't make sense.
Well, I think he thought it was a gotcha in the sense that like the way we can see the limitation of how we conceive of any act of creating something is sequential intrinsically. So it's like a gotcha, I guess, but
I think it's very not surprising that he like leaves at the point that Galley finally gets enough air room to explain himself coherently in such a way that there's not really a way for him to weasel out of not understanding it like he did all night.
To be clear, Galley still didn't explain themselves coherently. Like, he still had to have Geo come in to tell him to just say no. He could not just say no to a simple yes or no question.
I said no several times, Melodic. Your lie is not welcome.
The answer is not really no, though, is the point that there's other factors involved. It's not just a simple yes or no.
No, the answer was no. The answer... Any other factors? The answer it came to no. It was no comma. That's all.
Listen. It was a loaded question, which is what he explained, which is why he wouldn't take the bait of just.
It was not.
Okay, well, well, then I should be able to explain why it was then, right?
So Melodic, what's your favorite flaw in a flawless individual? What's your favorite flaw in the flawless individual?
Well, see, flawless individuals don't exist, so I'm not entertaining it.
Let's say there was a flawless individual. What's your favorite flaw in a flawless individual?
I'm just giving you the answer. I get that you think you got a gotcha here, but the fact is that you ended up just saying no. Galley. The fact that I'm bringing up here is that you ended up just saying no once somebody was finally like, oh, so you just mean no, then some of these other things. And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. It's
wrong.
Great. I thank you for the entertainment that I've had this afternoon, Galley. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, you're wrong. You're out of breath. You're giggling. So if a flawless individual, they would have the property of flawlessness. The implication that they have a flaw is a category error in a loaded question. So the purpose of me asking you, what's your favorite flaw of a flawless individual? I'm asking you of a property that the individual does not have, right? I'm asking you about it, your opinion of it. What's your favorite flaw of a flawless individual? So you can't answer that because it's a loaded question and a category error. But I don't know why you don't understand that. That's fine. You're just like, oh, there's no such thing as a flawless individual. It's a
right? It wasn't a loaded question because you ended up just saying no. Right,
wrong.
It's not a loaded question.
Gio asked if I said no, and I said no. I didn't say
hold
no.
on, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Hold on, don't. I put myself on mute and sat through what you said. Don't interrupt me.
You're lying.
Right?
Please stop lying.
Now, what? Don't interrupt me. I put myself on mute so that I wouldn't interrupt you while you said what you said. So just chill. Right? Let me say what I'm gonna say. So he just asked you. There are these 3 steps that happened. Did they happen in order? Do they have to happen in order? And you could not answer that yes or no when the answer is no. They don't have to happen in order. And that's all you had to say. It was just, frankly,
no, dude,
beautiful.
No, Melodic, you're lying. When Gio asked, why am I just saying no? Gio asked, am I just saying no? My answer to him was, no, I'm not just saying no. It is a category error. Do you know what a category error is?
Right, and then immediately afterwards you said God doesn't have to experience those things at time, which is just the answer no. Regardless,
Wrong.
Like it doesn't matter what you say beforehand when you then just make the answer that he was asking for later. Like I get that your attention spans are kind of like, hey, they're here and you need to have them longer. I'm talking fast so that I don't run out of attention span time. Okay, so anyhow,
you're talking needlessly.
No, I'm not. Like, because you're literally going, hey, I declared it to be so, therefore it is. When you're just wrong about it being so, and here I am getting talked over once more while I mute myself while you all talk. I'm trying to do you all a favor, and you all are just not being.
No, you're just
very
like
nice
forcibly
to it.
retaining the mic over
No,
everyone.
I'm not
not
retaining the mic. I'm trying to finish it. The point
moderate.
is, you can't just declare it and then say that it is, and then just answer it no. Like
Because
it
you're
wasn't.
lying and misrepresenting what happened. You're out of your depth. You don't understand the subject matter, and you don't understand what was being said. Simple.
Yeah, let me moderate. What just happened there, Melodic? Because you're being like you're obviously trying to like ruffle feathers or whatever, but you went really long, and then Galley just very quickly said to you, "Do you know what a category error is?" Instead of addressing that, you just repeated yourself with like more condescending remarks, right? So that's
Correct,
not
because
fruitful.
the question was not actually applicable to what was being talked about. I know that you all agree, so you want to say it, and you're a mod, so you're going to be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna back up my guy." But like, I don't care.
Wow.
The question was not applicable
No,
to
this
the
is not
conversation
an
being
argument, bro.
It
This is not
actually
an
was
argument.
applicable, though. It was applicable, and the fact that you're
That's
claiming
the
it
point.
doesn't
I
show that you
understand that that's
understand
your
his point.
opinion. I understand that that's
Can
your
you steal
opinion
man's
because you
point?
agree
Can you
with
steal
him.
This is
Yeah,
all
his
just
point
your
was.
opinion,
His
dude.
point was. Are you ready? Are
One
you
at a
ready? Are you ready? I
time.
can
One at a
steel man his
time.
point. If you're going to ask me to, do you want me to or do you not want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I can go ahead. Right. So Galley's point is that if the universe had a beginning, then it had to have a creator, and that creator is non-contingent. And since that creator is non-contingent, then it can't have to deal with time because time is contingent. Did I miss anything?
You missed the part where the way he asked it. What he asked it was a category error. You missed that part.
No, it
Try to
wasn't.
explain
Like,
that.
I understand
part.
that that's your opinion, but
Well,
I'm
you're
telling
supposed
you
to
that
be
it
still
wasn't
manning
because
him.
at the
You're
very
supposed
end
to
of
be
it,
still
holy
manning
shit, you're
him.
interrupting me again, and this is why I talk fast and I'm out of breath and I'm trying to get my point across because I don't get any
You
time
interrupted
trying to
him
talk.
to
Yes,
say that
because
he's
you interrupt me
interrupting
while I'm
you.
trying to talk. It's
Oh
amazing
my
that I
gosh.
just steel-manned him and not one of
we
you.
have
He
to
didn't even
moderate.
come up.
This is crazy. Austin was in the
Okay.
middle of speaking.
Hold
You
on, let's
interrupted
not mute
him,
though. Please
and then
don't-
said he was interrupting you.
Stop.
Okay.
Please don't mute people right now. Melodic, please chill. Don't mute him because he's the one being. This is chaos. So we shouldn't
chaos,
just.
yeah.
Anyways,
Okay,
you
can
have
I
the
just
mute.
finish what I was saying? Because I'm trying to like help make this not so bad. Melodic. The point was like you were supposed to still. You're saying you disagree that it was a category error. Great. The point. What? That's why the benefit of us asking you to still man him. Okay, so that means you still man why he claimed it was a category error. A still man is not you saying, but it's not one, and then mocking the room again, right? So like, can
Bro,
you
that's
still
not what
man
I
why
said,
he claimed that?
bro. I just steel-manned what he said. Were you not listening to me, bro?
Interrupted him again.
Well, Melodic.
Correct, because I've already steel-manned him, and now he is going, you didn't
Hypocrite,
steel-man
right?
him. What do you
Right.
want from me, Witsit?
I want you to still man why he is claiming it is a category error.
Right, he is claiming that it is a category error, Witsit, because he thinks that the universe had a beginning, and if the universe had a beginning, there had to be a non-contingent creator. And since that creator is non-contingent, then a contingent thing, like time, does not apply to that creator. That is why he thinks it is a category error.
Oh, so
Right. So
okay, it's decent.
It's kind of both.
It's decent.
The
Well, this is
answer
what I'm trying to
it's a
explain.
category error. It's a category error and no. It's basically
Well,
both.
this is the thing. It's a loaded question because whenever the way he asked it was, and I didn't want to say this because I'm like supposed to be modding or whatever. The way he said it was, does he experience in time? Right? Meaning like
That's not a loaded
it doesn't.
question, Witsit.
Stop
I know
interrupting
that you
me.
want it to be a loaded question, but it's really not, right? Because at the end, his answer was no.
Dude, this
Here's
guy's such
why.
a
That's not a loaded question
Dude,
because
you are
he's
cutting
accepting the
everybody
premise.
off and
Everybody
then
stop. Hold
complaining
on.
when they try to talk.
Yeah, hold on, Melodic.
Wow,
I didn't
Melodic,
intersect
you're a
you. We
horrible
just talked about this
individual.
earlier. That's not a valid reason to interrupt. You could have waited. He didn't strawman you. He didn't ad hom you. So that was just a faulty interruption. Please don't do that. Witsit, do you want to finish your point? You
Okay.
can go next, Melodic. But if you just think they're wrong, that's not a reason to interrupt. If it's a strawman or an ad hom, that's different. But go ahead.
So part of me was I could tell the frustration of the room was that they felt like Galley wasn't in good faith just answering it, but I know why he wasn't. And that's because it's a loaded question, meaning the way he was asking it was, does he experience a sequence of events? Technically, being non-contingent, he could, but he doesn't have to. So the properly formulated question was, does the creator have to experience it? Right? In a sequence of events. And he answered that point blank repeatedly by saying he was non-contingent.
He did not, right? You just showed us why it wasn't a loaded question, because there was a clear, articulable answer that laid out a point that was what the question was referring to. Like, you could say yes or you could say no. Both of these options are valid. It depends on your conception of God. Like, it's not a loaded question. He's trying to get more information. Why are you interrupting me now? Like, Jesus.
Because you're steamrolling what he just said, and as you're not understanding.
How is it steamrolling when I waited for him to finish? How is it steamrolling when he waited to finish?
Rob, 10 seconds or less, I got you. Go. Rob, hold on, guys. Come on, dude. Just let him finish. Even if he's wrong, just let him finish. Don't interrupt him on both sides.
Because it's just two more back and forth. He's going to be proven.
Just stop. It's okay.
Just two more.
Be patient.
Okay, the point is that if you just wait for him to say it, then it's maybe two more back and forth, and he's proven wrong undeniably. Interrupting him is just going to cause him to do it more.
All right, my bad.
Exactly.
It's not a loaded question. It's not a loaded question because there's a clear way out of it. I get that he didn't want to say it, but he ended up saying it anyway. And like, you can just say it's not a loaded question. It wasn't trying to be a trick. It's like literally somebody trying to get information about what you conceive, and you all are trying to hide and obfuscate what you want to believe. And then later, when he left, you all go, ha ha ha, that was a loaded question. But you know what? Here, let me just go ahead and answer what I should have said at the beginning instead of being dishonest the whole time.
He said it was loaded before he left.
The reason it was loaded, the reason it was loaded is because you know what a loaded question is. You can't just simply say yes or no. You just claimed he could have, and you're claiming he could have just said no. I just explained why he couldn't have. I'll say it again. When he said, does he experience events in a sequence? That's a loaded question because he could, but he also could not. So it could be yes and no. The properly formed question would have been, does he have to experience events in sequence? He did not properly form his question. It was loaded.
All right, so let's go ahead and dispel Whitsit's misunderstanding of loaded questions real quick. Bam, here we go. A loaded question is a trick question, which presupposes at least one unverified assumption that the person that's being questioned is likely to disagree with. For example, the question, have you stopped mistreating your pet, is a loaded question because it presupposes that you have been mistreating your pet. There is no presupposition in that question that God has to choose one or the other. He was just asking, does this happen? And then you can say yes, no, and then layer on the complexities. Right? It's just super easy to go no and then continue. Right?
No, that's wrong.
Yes, it is. When he said no, he's not he's not saying that God doesn't experience time. He's just saying God has the capacity to not. And I just don't understand it.
Okay, dude, he could not have just said yes or
again.
He could have not just said yes or no, bro. Okay, I just explained why. So that's the point that makes it loaded, and actually clearly baked in the context of the conversation. The presupposition baked in was that time was experiential for God, right? Which was the entire point. He was trying to get a gotcha. So baked in, he said, "Does he experience it?" Does he experience events in a sequence, right? So he was baking in the presupposition of having to experience the specific presupposition. Listen, don't interrupt me because I messed up on a word. Don't interrupt me because I slipped on a word. Try to have some self-restraint.
By your rules, you can interrupt when you say falsehood. I'm just using your words, your rules.
That wasn't the rule.
Yeah.
That was the opposite of the rule. So, okay. So the point is the presupposition baked in is that it's either or, meaning that for sequence of events to happen, it requires time itself. Therefore, the creator experiencing any type of sequential events means that he is subject to time. That's the baked in premise.
Incorrect. That premise is not baked in. Because the question is asking if he does or does not. Like that premise can't be baked in when you're asking if it does happen or it does not happen. Like that's not.
It also
that's
bakes
not how
in a
those
binary
work.
option too. It's also assumptive that the answer is going to be yes or no. By the way,
no, it's not assuming. It's not assuming because he definitely was giving him room to elaborate further upon it if he wanted to.
What was Galley's answer? Because what you were complaining that Galley gave a non-binary answer, and now I'm saying that the answer is not binary, and you're saying that's fine.
No, you're not understanding
point that you brought up was that Galley didn't answer it with yes or no. So now you're going in a circle contradicting yourself.
The original complaint that I brought up is that Galley didn't answer yes or no when the answer was very much no.
And I just said
with
that, right?
Additional.
And then you said it was okay.
Hold the fuck on, my dude! I'm literally in the middle of explaining things to you, and you're interrupting me. So again. Galley literally said the point that I was making was the answer was yes or no, and then Galley could add more, and that would be the honest thing to do, not sit around here and play rhetorical games, especially if you're going to wait, and then after the conversation is over, be like, ha 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 ha, but also actually, yeah, no, he doesn't experience time because that could be a choice that he made. And that's like something that you could have said to progress the debate along, instead of sitting around with the rhetorical stuff that just happened because you all don't like Tony.
Okay, so his answer could
you
have been
just
yes
lost at this
and
last step.
no.
At the last step, I don't think you realized it. In the very beginning, you accused Galley, saying he should have just said yes or no. We went in a circle, and then I just explained how actually there was a presumption that the answer had to be yes or no baked into the question. And then you replied that no, it didn't have to be either one. He could have given a different answer. And I said, well, he did give a different answer. That's the very thing you were complaining about in the beginning. So now you're literally
it's not.
contradicting
You're getting,
your original point.
You didn't understand my original point. So let me
just
try
said
and
that
draw
he
it for
could
you
have
again.
said no and
hold
then
on.
continued
Are you
to
literally
no,
going to
bro.
argue about me over
Hazel,
what the hell I meant? Are you going to argue about me
what
about
you
what
said,
I
bro.
meant? So let me clarify what I meant in the chance that you can try and understand it. Okay. So again, the issue is that there was all of this. This is a loaded question. I don't need to answer this. Blah 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 blah. And then after the whole thing had ended, it came out that I would have just said no because he can choose not to do this if he doesn't want to. And it seems that's what I'm complaining
You're just
about.
repeating yourself
real
over and
quick,
over,
how come
dude.
Tony said his own question was loaded and you don't think his question was loaded? Dude, that's retarded.
Yeah, he admitted it was and just laughed about it.
Two people can actually
And
have different opinions.
And the reason he did that was because he baked in the presupposition he articulated right before the question, which is that sequences are dependent upon time. So he's trying to get a gotcha, which is that for God to have anything to do with sequences of events means he has to be subject to time, which is why Galley actually
So to be clear,
clarified and said, you're trying to stop interrupting me. That's why Galley actually clarified and said, you're trying to ask me if he's subject to time, which is incoherent. I just explained it. He said, no, I'm not asking you that. And then he repeated a question that then said, well, basically, I am asking you that because it's baked in. Then he said, it's a loaded question. Were you not listening to the conversation between them?
No, I was. I'm just waiting for you to finish so that we can go back to the point that you just made, where the premise is not like. Do you think sequences aren't dependent on time?
You're already wrong from two different angles, and now you're pivoting, bro. Like,
no, I'm not wrong. I'm just trying to find something else to talk about now because it's obvious to me that you all aren't going to change your opinions.
Okay, well, it's pretty simple, dude. The point is that he couldn't have answered yes or no and properly
Yes, he could've.
represented. He couldn't have answered yes or no and properly represent his position because the answer is yes or no, meaning it's whatever he wants to do. He's not contingent upon it. So it's like, good point, dude. You think you got some gotcha? That Tony admitted he was trying to get
I'm just continuing to expose the bad faith.
Tony admitted it was a bad faith loaded question.
I don't care.
Well, then why are you even here? Because you're arguing with the ghost right now, bro.
Can we move
this
on?
is crazy behavior.
Can we move on then? He just said he doesn't care. He doesn't care about being truthful. Yeah, he's just a troll. Gio, can we move on?
No, I'm not a troll. I was trying to find a different topic, and then we came back
You
to
are
you
a
because Witsit
troll, sir. You
guys trying to talk
demonstrated
about
in the
Witsit.
chat
I
regularly.
literally just asked if Witsit thought that sequences are dependent on time. I was trying to change the topic.
Gio, is this a moment where we can force pivot? Because he just admitted bad faith and laughed about it.
I was trying to change the topic. Correct.
You got duper Salima,
look,
bro.
I mean, in general, I don't think I can understand. I could feel the building frustration of the room there. But, I can also understand, I'm the one that modded it, so I can understand why Galley just at that point was just straight to the point and almost reductionist. So, it is what it is. I mean, I don't care. It's not my job as a moderator to be like, oh man, you could be saying this just to satisfy and move it along faster. I try to do that both ways, but I tried not to just actually interject as a debater. At one point it starts to sound like I am debating. So whatever. I don't think that Galley was wrong. I think that Galley was kind of presupposing that Tony was grasping the full implications of some of the things he was saying at the end, and I think that Tony wasn't even thinking about it like that. So
I agree, and he did say yes, it was a loaded question, so we can move past your point, Melodic. Thank you. Tony even admitted it.
Speaking of Galley, Galley, do you think classical logic describes all of reality?
Do I think the classical laws of logic describe all of reality? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, fuzzy
That was
logic
the question on the
gotcha.
table.
Fuzzy logic gotcha.
I
Incorrect,
think
but good try.
the classical. Do you think that that's like a true yes or no question? Are you going to accuse me of not answering a yes or no question if I don't answer it?
No,
Like,
Can you
I'm
define
asking you.
reality? Can you
Do you
define
think?
reality for us, Melodic?
Holy
Hold
fuck!
on.
I got
Hold
asked
on.
to clarify, Tora. Jesus. Huh.
Yeah, let's let
No,
the Galley.
I
Do you want
don't. I
to?
don't think that it's a yes or no question. I think that it'll definitely have probably more answers. In fact, I would expect it to have more answers than yes or no.
So the question is, do I think that the classical laws of logic describe all of reality? I think the classical laws of logic are the tools we use that make reality intelligible.
And what if I told you that those tools don't work for reality?
Well, if you're going to make that claim, you'd have to show me a part of reality that's intelligible that doesn't use the classical laws of logic.
Oh yeah, that's too easy. The quantum mechanics violates the rule of identity.
I knew that was
Or
coming.
distributivity problem. Yeah,
Which
whatever.
one? Quantum entanglement? What are you talking about? Quantum mechanics?
No, quantum mechanics.
How does it do that?
Yeah.
I posted you the proof yesterday.
I have you blocked because you're a chat troll. So can you speak it?
Man, that sounds really upsetting for you.
Can you
I just
specify
don't
what
like
you mean?
being pinged by people who nonstop C-line me, so I block them.
Yeah, why don't you
Can you
explain it again?
repeat the argument,
That
please?
sucks with your ability. I'm getting ready to. I'm trying. You're gonna have to unblock me because it's a proof. You know, you have to read
What
math.
about all the other people that want the answer, Melodic?
Yeah, no, thanks, man. I don't want to engage you. I think you're bad faith. I think you're a liar, and I think you misrepresent what people say.
Do the troll laugh.
Hey, that was a logical
Anyway,
statement.
so here
just
you
made
go.
There.
Here's the proof. I apologize that I'm
My
not
answer is
speaking
no
it because
thanks.
again, it's math and you have to read it. But you know, I'll
My
take
answer
that
is
as
no thanks,
you're
and kick
conceding
rocks,
the point
ask
that I
someone else.
made. Thank you.
Wait,
No,
Melodic,
my
are you
answer is
basically
no
are
thanks,
you
and
conceding
kick
that
rocks, ask someone else.
are you conceding you can't articulate why it violates the
No, I am
laws
not
of?
conceding that I can't articulate that. I am conceding that math does a better job than verbal
Why won't
words will
you
ever do.
articulate it?
We'll just articulate
Because
it.
math does a better job than words will ever do.
Yeah, but we're all in this
No.
voice chat,
Yes,
and
with
not all of us just read what you're posting. Why don't you explain it to us that are listening in the voice
I would be
chat?
glad to. You can ask questions about it since we're all looking at it.
Explain it simply.
No, I can, but that requires you to ask questions about it. You know, I don't know where to
Are you
start
saying?
explaining it if
Are you
you
saying
don't
this?
ask.
Are you? Yeah, are you saying a system built with the classical laws of logic defied the classical laws of logic? And if so, how could you
No,
prove
I'm
that it
saying that the
defied the
classical laws of
classical
logic
laws
fail
of
to describe
logic
Hey,
quantum
without?
mechanics.
dude, he didn't finish his
Bro.
question.
Melodic, it's pretty bad, bro. Because what you're gonna do, for other people, what happens in this situation is what ends up happening is other people are just like, screw it, I'm gonna interject when he says something wrong, and then it's just a slippery slope, right? Where it really just devolves into utter
I'm
chaos.
trying to work on it with it. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on it and keep myself muted.
Yeah, we
So
can.
Tor, can you post the evidence of these lies that you say I'm lying? Can you post that
No, just
evidence?
the evidence
Yeah,
of
they're
quantum
literally
mechanics
in the chat.
breaking reality.
Literally, it's in the chat. It's not
Yeah,
breaking
because
reality. It's that the classical laws of logic fail to describe quantum mechanics, and quantum mechanics is part of reality.
yeah. And by the way, like I know how it feels. Like sometimes I have to talk really fast because I know I'm gonna be interrupted. But the downside to it is like we are modding, and like when you talk super fast, it actually just creates this environment where everyone starts kind of like feeling antsy. And then if you do some interjections on top of that, it's like everyone just gonna start talking really fast, trying to fit in their point, trying to talk as soon as they can, trying to wait till you get finished to see who can be the first person to say something, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I got it, Witsit. I'm smarter than you, and it makes you uncomfortable. That's
Oh,
fine. I'm
Witsit, you
sorry about
must
the
have been
speed
here a
of my
long time.
voice, but again, I'm here and I'm muting myself and I'm trying.
Dude, honestly,
cool.
you showing up on Earth Awakenings, they all come out of the woodwork. They all want like a piece of you. It's like years of resentment just building up, and they finally get a chance to dig their teeth in. There's a couple of them too that haven't been here in months.
Yeah, I got a question for you,
But
Witsit.
no, I've just been bored over at Omnivores, and I finally asked somebody for an invite here. Like, Witsit was not at all involved. He just
And
happened
this
to
is
be
the
on.
way you act when you come in?
So weird.
He seems starstruck.
Yeah, Rob, when I'm used to
Bro,
you,
what's
this
up
is
with these
exactly how I come in.
Wait, I got a question for Tor though. So what's
Well,
up?
before you ask your
You said you
question,
had evidence of the lies that I'm gonna have to explain to the creator. Can you post that?
well,
I'm
I was
curious
actually
what
gonna.
quantum mechanics.
Okay, all right. I won't ask my question. Go ahead,
No,
guys.
go ahead, Beast. Go ahead.
Jeez, Witsit, do you think that logic is an attribute of God?
The mind of God, yeah.
Okay. Did you hear that, Locksmith?
Yeah, I agree. Divine logic is an attribute of God.
But Witsit, do you
Now
think
you
God?
agree because Witsit says it? Wow.
Well,
Amazing.
okay. I mean, I've been saying my whole argument is God is above natural reason, super rational. So I don't know why it's a big
Well, I
like
think I agree with
disagreement.
that. I think I don't think that's mutually exclusive. What's up, Gio?
Well, I was just gonna say, do you think like God can transcend the laws of logic if it wanted?
I don't. I think it's an intrinsic property. So, um, no, this is kind of where I tap out though, because you said if he wanted at the end of it. Um, like I don't. I mean, I think it's an intrinsic property, so I think it's like malformed in a way. I don't mean it. His essence and being is, and that's what it says in my belief, right? Where it says, "I am that I am." So it's like he has his being. So yeah, nah, I don't think so. No. And when we look at the laws of logic, I mean, violating them are just automatically destructive. Like a reality that the law of non-contradiction doesn't apply, like is automatically less valuable and more destructive. So I don't see even a reason to.
You know, in my view, the more destructive act is to deny a part of reality because you disagree with it.
Yep.
The imposition of materialistic confinement on the quantum scale, thus resulting in paradoxical nonsense, and the confounding of those materialistic proponents is not synonymous with reality not adhering to logic.
Right,
So,
right.
I
You
mean,
don't like it, so therefore you don't like it, so therefore you say it doesn't exist. Plenty of other people say, "Hey, this makes wonderful predictions and works great, so it must be part of reality." What I'm trying to drive here with it is that this is your opinion, and
well,
I
they're
respect
not,
it, but there
not
are
very
others.
wise. Well, they're not very wise, right? Because, like, I regularly say this is one of the most precise forms of science, and we have like immensely impressive and hyper specific mathematical predictability within it. Probably more so than any other field in the world, it's not even close. All of that can be true, and then you can understand the fact that it's a mathematical description of reality, and descriptions of reality are not synonymous with reality. And if you have an intrinsic presuppositions that's inaccurate, such as you can quantify whatever's happening, then you're destined to oblivion. So they're trying to quantify the immaterial, which is fundamentally impossible. So of course they're going to always reach the end of the road where they hit a paradox.
Right, but see, I argue that the
That's
end of the
called
road where you've hit a
God, that
paradox
paradox.
here is the end of the
That's
road that
called
you've
God.
hit where you are literally deciding that some parts of reality are not actually parts of reality because you disagree with them.
No. It's that they're saying that certain parts of reality are not parts of reality because they don't agree with them. And specifically, it's the
No, that's not
undeniable
what they're saying.
evidence. No, it is because it's the undeniable
No,
evidence
it's
that there's.
literally not.
They are because there is undeniable evidence of
Correct,
the
correct. They are
immaterial.
not. So could you please provide me some evidence that they are?
Dude, if
Sure,
you can
yeah.
just wait till
I'm
he's finished,
trying.
though. Yeah, try not to clip and interrupt, dude. You gotta just wait till he's
Well,
finished if you
no,
want to
you
leave.
don't understand because I'm not
Now
asking
you're
him to tell
interrupting.
me. You're not understanding what I'm asking him for. I'm not asking him to tell me what they say. I'm asking him to show me them saying the thing.
Oh, I didn't claim what they say, so that's
Oh, okay.
weird.
So they don't say anything that you said. Got it. Okay.
No, I'm saying something. Yeah.
Right, and
you
I'm
were just
saying that
confused.
to me, the way that you're saying your worldview is more destructive and wrong because you are denying a piece of reality. That is what I am telling you.
And then I was rebutting that, and you felt the need to
No, you
censor
weren't.
me.
You went to some they instead of talking
doing it
about me
again.
and what I'm saying to you.
You're the
I'm
one.
unclear.
Unfortunately
What
for you,
you guys are even talking about?
Unfortunately for you, you are invoking they repeatedly. I'm not, but
No,
doesn't
no, I'm
matter
not.
because
I'm not invoking. I'm invoking
you
me. I am
are
invoking me with it. Me here.
interrupting. So
Because
you
you
keep
said I
saying,
invoked they, and I didn't
"Oh,
invoke they. You can roll back the tape with it.
yeah." You want to bet? You want to bet $1,000?
You don't have $1,000 with it.
Okay. What a cool. Then I don't know how do I pay my bills better.
All right.
Okay. So
That's
anyway,
why you don't have $1,000. Is because you have bills with it.
Do we
good
really want
ones.
to keep
Good ones.
engaging with
Okay.
this guy?
Well, I want to make the point actually. So if you could just not interrupt me, that'd be great. They're making the presupposition about reality from a materialistic bias, and they're dealing with aspects that are immaterial. And so the material assumption is actually what's limiting them. They're making the presupposition. I am not, like I didn't say, I hope there's no, background medium. I hope there's nothing that we can't quantify. I hope there's nothing that seems paradoxical because there's instantaneous action at this. I didn't do any of that. I just accepted it for what it is. They are the one imposing materialism on reality.
All right. So with it, can you help me out here? Understand? You definitely did not say then that it is illogical and therefore not part of reality. Correct? Those words were not said by you.
I don't think I said that, no. But I mean, I
So
don't
we
even
can roll back the tapes
necessarily
because you
disagree
did.
with it.
You did in fact say that, and that is what brought me out to tell you that I find that a worldview which denies part of reality to be the more destructive thing.
Yeah, did you hear the part that I said? Maybe I'll put it like this. You're just baking in, your conclusion as if it's true by calling it reality. Maybe that trick works on some people. It's not going to work on me, obviously. So
No, I'm
that's what's
not
in
baking in
contention.
any clue.
Yes, you are. And that's what's in contention. And that's because you're calling things such as the paradoxical nature of what they currently understand about quantum, quote unquote, reality. What I'm telling you is that their current understanding is fundamentally flawed and weighed down by presuppositions, specifically a materialistic
Right.
presupposition.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you're
And
catching
you're
up.
cutting out an entire view of reality because you disagree with it, and I find that view to be very destructive. Are we back onto the same page now with
No,
it?
it's not because I disagree with it. It's because it's
Yes, it
unintelligible.
is. It is because you disagree with it.
No, it's because it's unintelligible.
Right,
You're
because you
cutting
can't
out.
understand
You're
with
cutting
it.
out the
Therefore, you
whole
disagree with it.
reality,
This
bro.
is all an argument from incredulity with it, and I know you're better than that.
No,
You're
I
cutting
didn't
out
say
the
it
whole.
isn't true because I don't like it, I don't believe it, or I can't understand it. I
You
said
did. You
that
did. You
it's
said it's unintelligible, and that is clearly false because it's intelligible to me.
Could you stop clipping, please?
no, it's not. It's not. Watch, I'll ask you how, and you'll just say just because it is. It's not intelligible to you. How can one thing be in two places at once? Go.
One thing isn't in two places at once. Go.
Okay. Okay, so superposition is impossible.
That's not what superposition is.
Really, go ahead and let me how it's not about simultaneous positioning.
Superposition is part of the waveform, and the waveform is the only thing that occupies a space. It's not two things occupying one space. It's a waveform occupying the space. Like,
So you do agree that you can't have two things in one place or in one place at the same time.
well, it depends on what it is. Like, if it has a spin one half, it's a spin half. The boson or fermions, they can stack, but that's why we had the whole ultraviolet catastrophe, and then we realized that this is why we need to do this, and then we had a whole bunch of other predictions, and then we split an atom, and then we bombed the fuck out of some Nazis. It
Okay,
was
this
great.
you just exposed yourself, right? So it had nothing to do with the ultraviolet. In modern quantum mechanics, they
It does.
absolutely
Like, oh my, the fact that you don't think it does.
in modern quantum mechanics, they absolutely claim that one thing can be in two places and that two things can be in one place simultaneously.
They do not.
Really, well, you just invoked the concept of stacking. So let's talk about quantum fields. Is it possible that two quantum fields can occupy the same space? Yes or no?
Yeah, but that doesn't make them the same thing. Or it doesn't even mean that they have.
two
It
things in
doesn't
the
even
same
like
place.
see. This is the part where you and Taylor yesterday were making reification fallacies. Fields aren't real, right? They are mathematical structures that we can put measurements into. But you do understand
That was my
this,
argument.
correct?
You do realize that was
No,
my
it wasn't
argument.
your argument because you're right now. You're going, hey, you have fields, and don't these fields occupy space in the same point? And well, yes, they do, but that's because these are mathematical structures that aren't physical.
Yeah, that was my argument yesterday, which was to show them, can
No,
you
it
define the
wasn't.
field?
Twitsit, we can roll the
Stop
tape back.
interrupting me. Okay, you want to bet $5,000?
Once again, what's it? You don't have $5,000 to bet?
Then why wouldn't you just take the bet? Take the bet
Because
if
I'd
you know
like
I'm
to get
wrong.
paid.
I promise on everything that I love, including my children, I'll
I
pay
don't
you if
trust
that
your
wasn't.
promises.
Okay, yeah, because you know you're lying. That's what it actually is. So I'm
No, I
gonna
don't
try
trust
to talk
anybody
again.
over
Okay,
the
I'm just
internet's
gonna. Okay,
promises with it
if you
because I don't
interrupt
have
me
the
again,
IQ of a
I'm gonna
child.
Why is he allowed to
Okay.
just continue acting like this?
I don't know.
You know
This
what's
is up to
crazy though?
Witsit,
It's like
though.
I'll say one more thing. Like you're talking about trusting people on the internet. Like I show my full real identity and my face on the internet. So, I mean, it's kind of funny that you would say that, but it doesn't matter, bro. I'm actually trying to have an intelligible conversation. If you're just trying to look for some weird gotcha, I'm not interested, certainly if it requires you to incessantly interrupt me. Yesterday, I was talking to them about quantum, and they brought up fields. I asked him to define it and then made the point, and actually, he seemed to realize it live that it was simply math, just an abstract. I made that point to them, actually, and I only was critiquing within the worldview of quantum mechanics and materialism being correct, where in which they claim things such as two things, and they actually reify fields and claim they can simultaneously be in one location. And they actually claim that they stack in a singular space simultaneously, which is unintelligible. And the bigger point here
Because
is
they're
very simple.
mathematical constructs. All right,
Right.
so let me
But so they're
try
not
this again.
reality.
Right, so yesterday, what's it? I tried, and I know I messed up there at the end, but I honestly I did try. Like, so you just said that they are not real and they're not a thing, and then you just came back to the same point that they can't be in the same space. And again, yes, they very much can be if they are not real entities.
Yeah, my point is that they reify them.
No, you're doing it.
No. They do it. Modern quantum mechanics literally does that. Hence the 17 quantum physicists with PhDs I've debated about it that have all claimed that they do it.
That's nice.
That's all
PhDs can be
recorded
wrong.
and public
So anyway,
information.
as I was saying, right, when you say that QFT, the fields are not real, they're just math, they're not reification, and then you come back to the same point that then they stack all these fields at one point, and this is impossible. You have reified the field.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it one more time, bro. My argument is that because they are intrinsically only abstract, right? When they apply concreteness to them as if they are real things, they're reifying them. They didn't do super retarded things like claiming that those real things can simultaneously be at the same place at the same time, which is just stupid. So I make that point because they're only abstract. Okay. You really think some weird little gotcha
Are
is
you
gonna
done?
work?
Can I tell you where you just reified them again?
I
You haven't been
didn't.
right
Alright.
one time all night, bro. It's kind of crazy you're
I
still
mean,
here.
it's amusing to hear somebody who doesn't understand physics tell me I'm wrong. So anyway, as I was saying, so the fields are mathematical objects. These are a framework, a structure for us to keep measurements in. Nobody is constructing the field at the point and saying it is real. The only thing that is real at that point is the measurement that we made. The field is just a mathematical object. No scientist in the world is going to tell you that a field is a real physical thing outside of the fact that I can measure it at a point.
Incorrect. I actually have a recorded video with a PhD quantum physicist that works at CERN that everyone has seen. I've talked to him maybe 3 different times. Every time he ends up doubling, tripling down on that very point. He then does the same thing for virtual
All right,
photons.
you can make an argument from credentials, but I don't care about it. And then you
I
still haven't
didn't
provided
what?
that video, so
You just made an argument ad populum, bro.
I didn't make an
no, I did
argument.
not.
No,
he didn't. He said, "I have a PhD who can tell you that you're wrong." How is that
Right,
not
that was a
an
direct
argument
refutation
from
of what
how
you just said.
Jesus Christ person, please stay the fuck out. Anyhow, Witsit, how is that not an argument from authority to tell me that I'm wrong because you have a physicist who says something else?
I didn't say
DC
that.
Tony
What
did
you
welcome.
said, what you said was that no scientists on the planet would ever say this. So I corrected you
Right.
because the truth
And
is, I bet you're
do you
not
think,
the people that stop interrupting
hey,
me,
Witsit,
dude. I'm just
do
gonna
you
mute
think
you.
that maybe I
Stop
don't
interrupting
consider
me.
him a
Stop
scientist? Did
interrupting me.
that thought
Stop
manage
interrupting
to
me.
go
This
through
is
your
the
head?
only
Yeah,
problem with the
yeah.
internet is people that would
Not melodic.
never do this to me in real life can just pretend they can do it on the internet. Stop interrupting me. You're
Witsit,
not
I would
tough.
punch you in real life. You're not tough.
I bet, dude. For sure, bro. For
Okay,
sure. Okay,
that's
stop
enough.
Can we
interrupting
just
me.
stop?
You're a
Just
she-her, dude. You're a she-her. Your estrogen would drown you before you even touch
Piazo,
someone.
And I
Piazo,
would
come
rock
on, dude.
Witsit's world.
None of this is
For sure,
healthy for
bro. For sure.
anybody. Please, like, we got to stop doing this. This
It's
is
just
getting
I gotta
kinky.
inexcusable.
disengage.
It's getting way
I
too
gave you like
kinky,
10
boys.
chances to be fair. I gave you
I
like
mean,
10
Well,
that's
chances
good
to
fine.
job,
be
You can
fair.
sir.
disengage. You've just been dishonest the whole time. It's fine. That's what Witsit does. We love you for it. Thank
Well,
you.
you
What
just
you
keep
just asked
interrupting me,
about? You just
man.
trying to
I'm
leave.
not. I'm disinterested, bro.
You're threatening people with
Melodic,
violence,
I mean,
Melodic.
no,
Be
no,
quiet.
no. See, Witsit threatened me with violence by implication.
We heard
When he
you
said
say
that
it.
I would never, when he said that
He
I
said
would
he's
never
I
talk to him that way in real life, and I would
Yo,
talk
dude,
to
Melodic,
him
can you take
worse than
5,
this
bro?
in real life.
Yeah,
To
for
be
sure.
fair,
Did
I
For sure.
Gio
met
get his
Witsit in
question?
you
I
guys,
met Witsit in real life, and he's about 6'3" and fairly built. So you're not hitting him, and you will
all
pay
right.
for it if you did.
Yeah, this
Can
is
I,
one of
you
those like
know,
over the line. Yeah, he's just gone over the line too many times. I mean, I
okay.
mean, what do you guys want to do? I mean, it just
Well,
seems like
I
melodic.
wanted
It's
to
one
mute
thing to
him.
like. I mean, there's little jabs and stuff, but you're just taking in a complete devolving of. I mean, you're interrupting blatantly and then laughing about it. Like you don't seem to actually be trying to. I mean, what do you guys want to do? I mean,
I
what's it
just
already?
maybe
I'm
give
good
a
on that.
clear, yeah, maybe just give a clear restatement of the final conclusion and then ignore him for the rest of the night.
No, I'd
Wait,
rather
did
have
Gio get
him.
did
All
Gio
right.
get an answer to his question? I remember. I think that's what Witsit was answering, right?
No,
I
not
think I answered
conclusion
it.
from him. I
I
meant
answered.
from us. Like he's done talking.
I mean, he's taking the room into like a dumpster fire. So like, either we give him another
Exactly.
shot and see if he can't do that, or
Nah,
we move
I
No,
on.
vote no. I vote
no.
no.
I was saying the other side give a conclusion of their final point and then move on. Because
Like,
I
I
mean,
mean,
he's like,
yeah, my point's pretty simple. I make it all the time, right? So, I mean, guess the big gotcha is like, oh, look, quantum mechanics defies classical logic. Yeah, because quantum mechanics is wrong because the study itself, the phenomenon that's real is very real, but the assumptions baked into the cake of materialism is what's wrong. They're trying to quantify the immaterial. So, where does that road lead? It can't work. It's fundamentally impossible. So, whatever.
All right. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna unmute him. But if you don't want to engage, I don't know who gets the last word or what you guys want to
Maybe
do.
like I could
No, I'm
I could
fine.
come in.
I'm dipping out.
other
Y'all have
people can
fun.
talk.
Enjoy your day.
Later,
Hey,
man.
bro,
Oh
don't
no!
refill
See,
your
they
Xanax
made him
prescription,
leave.
bro. You don't need it.
I
Ooh,
was gonna
Jesus
be
Christ is
pressure
Lord with the
mediating.
flagrant foul. Better change that.
What? Okay, it's just all reset, maybe, bro.
You cut out, I think.
Like arguing about the fields, it's like even in science. I mean, it just depends. So technically, they're mathematical models, but many physicists will treat them as if they're real, but they know that it is just a model that's just trying to mathematically describe something. But how the world actually works, like how does the actual machinery of the universe work, it's still a big fucking mystery. And the fields are just a mathematical model that makes predictions.
Well,
Correct.
dude, you
Yeah,
know
and
what's
it seems to keep
interesting?
working like a giant ocean. You know.
What's interesting is I actually have some of these conversations occasionally in real life with professors or just people in the field based on where I work or what I do, which I don't talk a lot about. But I I've only met one person, and I'm still not 100% certain. I'm just like pretty convinced through like reading in between the lines. I've only really met one person that seems to be like really like in the same frame of mind of like the people that Witsit debates, and he came from Harvard. Most of the other people that I've talked to who are credentialed, who are like have professorships or some type of place in this space in the academic world, acknowledge that We simply have a model that works. It works. It's good enough, and since it's good enough to make predictions to make our technology work, we use it. But like when you start trying to break down the things that are really truly abstract and get like meaning of like what it actually is, I had a professor tell me like we don't care what it is, we just care that it works good enough, or like he said that. So it's I think that a lot of people that are actually honest acknowledge that like this stuff is just a model, but it's the people who have like a need for like existential materialism to be their philosophy who want to cling to that stuff.
Correct. Same experience here. Like all my in-person interactions are totally different than the online circles I'm in. For someone with like credentials and to go up in there, they're looking for a debate and they're looking to defend materialism. And so like on X Spaces back in the day, like FEF or on Discord is usually different than every conversation I've had, even with people I disagree with like, heavy credentials. They like basically agree with everything I said. So pretty weird.
Yeah, and on top of that, dude, I've even like had professors who will acknowledge the seeming like I don't come right out the gate and say like ether and stuff, but I'll just like lead them down that path with like leading questions about like things that would lead to the implications being ether, and they'll agree with like the implicational questions, or the points that I'm making, without realizing what they're agreeing with. They're just using their intuition and logic, and they like get to that conclusion about, well, this makes sense, well, that makes sense. Is as long as you don't like take that final leap and like come out and say it, like they see no reason to disagree with you.
Yeah, yeah. And to clarify, they don't agree with like literally everything I ever say, like on my streams and stuff. Like when I ask them to basically concede what you just said. I've actually I can't even think of one time that they haven't agreed. Like just the basic premise of our understanding is super limited. We have pretty valuable models that we utilize, but we know that they're just mathematical models. They're the best that we have now, and most of them will say, actually, we know that we're not right.
Right, but it works good enough to build stuff, so we're going to use it. Right. Yeah, hey, you want to know what I found the other day that, side note, you might be interested in, anybody who's interested in electromagnetism. So I've been looking into, it's been a minute, but I was looking into back of this Maxwell's displacement current because I knew that there's just like something there, and digging really deep into like the way a capacitor works, how, current is supposed to be the flow of charges, but there's no charges moving between the plates of a capacitor, so how's there current? Like going down that whole hole and discussing or discovering, the mainstream explanation of it. There's some experiments that were done this past year where they found that in the near field region of a capacitor, and it doesn't have to be parallel plate, like they used two two-piece spherical shell antennas, and then the region between the two antennas, which it has two spherical shells on each end, becomes a spherical capacitor. They found that in the near field region, the energy impulse going from one antenna to the other moves at imperceptibly high speed. Like they couldn't even quantify it. It was so much faster than the speed of light. They weren't able to detect any finite speed. Like I'm sure there is a finite speed, but it was like so fast that like the oscilloscope that they had, which would have been able to measure the speed of light like X many times, couldn't pick it up. It was just the same. It was like an overlap on the graph of the output. So when the arc flash happened, what they did is they used a Wimshurst machine to build up charge on one of the spheres on the sending antenna, and when it hit enough voltage to achieve dielectric breakdown of the air, it spark flashed the arc gap and hit the second sphere. And as the moment that impulse occurred, that arc occurred, the antenna that was however many meters away immediately picked it up at the same exact moment in time, as far as the oscilloscope could tell.
Sounds like Tesla stuff.
Yeah, and they found that but it's near field because They said as soon as the distance between the plates becomes greater than the wavelength of the impulse, so like with a radio wave, whatever frequency you're at, like 30 megahertz would be like 10 meters. As soon as the space between the plates becomes greater than the wavelength, then as soon as it passes that distance, it goes back down to the speed of light again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really sounds like Tesla spark gap technology. That's where he talks about his white radiant energy, and yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was picked up as like I think they said they picked it up. Now, this part I might be not solid on because I still need to like read the paper thoroughly. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, what they were picking up was a near instantaneous shift in the scalar potential. So they were treating it as if it was a scalar wave, which is just the electrostatic potential, because it's the scalar electric field is defined by the scalar potential, the gradient in the scalar potential plus the change in the A field. So that part, which if you want to know what scalar potential is in a physical sense, think of like how dense the fluid is at a particular location, because electric field is like the flow, or what induces the flow. So the change in A field is how fast it's flowing. The scalar potential is how much there is in that location where it is flowing. So when the scalar potential changes, it's essentially like if you got a pool of water and you were to compress it really hard on one end, yeah, it's going to send out a wave, but in addition to the wave that's sent out, there's also going to be the near instantaneous reaction of the individual water molecules as they have like end to end touching each other, the elastic response. So it's very interesting trying to wrap your mind around what's actually causing it to be that fast, because the speed of light's supposed to be based on that elastic response, you would think, in a medium. But if the elastic response is c and this thing's moving much faster than c, so it's like, what's actually causing that? It's pretty profound and kind of hard to figure out why.
Well, Tesla talks about that, and instantaneous at no matter what distance, he claimed. And I think it has to do with transverse waves, like you said. And I think it's also based on spark gap technology. All of that combined. Yeah.
Yeah, so like when you send a wave out, it's all the speed of that wave is always dictated by whatever medium it's in, because the physical properties of the medium dictate the wave speed based on the fluid dynamics equations for velocity. But if you think about what happens when an arc flash occurs, it's almost like you're building up a whole bunch of pressure in a pipe, right? It's like normally, like let's say that like normally, like this water, you got water in a pipe, and if you were to like smack the water, a wave is going to propagate across the water at the same speed, because it's water. Water waves. If you smack a water wave at the top of water, it's always going to be a wave at the same speed. But if you build up this pressure in this pipe more and more and more and more and more, eventually to the point that the pipe ruptures and bursts and the water sprays out incredibly violently with extreme force, that's kind of what's happening when an arc flash occurs. There's like dielectric breakdown. So like the dielectric that was previously like preventing the flow of the water is all of a sudden now not a factor, and all that pressure that was built up is at that instant in time trying to all release at the same moment. And so it's kind of like a cascade effect, I suppose. It's like forcing it out way faster. But then it just begs the question of like, what is that voltage? Like what's being built up? It begs a whole bunch more questions to come up and be answered.
Well, the way like Tesla was explaining it, right? And this is freaky because apparently he ran current, DC current, through a magnet, through electromagnet, right? And it's like, how can you explain? It's like he split the current, right? So what he witnessed was a blue streak, kind of like what you see the picture I posted there, going on one side, what you think electricity or charge would look like, right? And then what he saw on the other side was a white stream, and that's what he called. What did he call it? He called it ether flow. Was one of it. One of the things that he called it, and it was like a white radiant energy. Was another thing he called it.
You said he separated. Can you say that again? He used a magnet to separate what within a DC circuit?
Electric flow, like electricity. He would put electricity and flow it through a magnet, right?
Through a magnet.
Right. And he noticed that the current split in two streams. One, which I think he said was the electrons, which were blue, and the other one was white, which he called radiant energy, also called it ether flow. That was part of his the tower thing. Yeah.
So if he's pumping it through a magnet, where is it then going in order for him to see it? Because if he's seeing streams through the air, then it's hopping from the magnet to something else, right? I mean, like any references or somewhere I can like.
Sorry. Finish off.
I was just saying, do you have like any links or references or anything where I can like read more about it?
Right. Yeah. I think his name was. I'll get you the paper. Terry something. He did a thesis on it, and he goes through the whole thing. Yeah. If you're into that kind of.
It usually leads back to his hairpin circuits.
Well, it has to do with spark gap.
Yeah, so that's hairpin circuit part of that.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Well, the spark gap was his means of creating AC at the time. And he just did it super high frequency, and then the hairpin circuits were a way to utilize that.
Okay, now the freaky thing about this kind of energy, and you can see a light bulb, it attracts stuff. It attracts paper, it attracts foil. Like a regular light bulb, if you turn it on, it doesn't attract, right? This has attractive properties. Yeah, it's like it's really freaked out. I've posted stuff on this before a few times.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, if you find that paper, dude, please send it to me.